What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of the Teardrop Pod. To episode 7 or 6. It's definitely less than 10, but more than 5. Welcome to that number episode of the Teardrop Pod. I am Chris. I am one of your hosts, and I'm joined by the one, the only, Andrew, one of our other hosts. How are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm doing fantastic. Ready to talk about some games. Yeah.
And even some TV shows, maybe, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, and some TV
we'll
shows.
See.
That's right, yeah.
Time will tell. Yes, we are the Teardrop Pod. Every week, once a week, at least, we're bringing you an episode. Well, I say at least every once a week. We missed last week. Sorry, guys. Life is crazy. Life gets in the way. Life finds a way. All those things are true. And we are back. Should be back to regularly scheduled programming, but we just do whatever we can to make this happen. It's just a fun little passion project of ours. So we appreciate your understanding. Shout out to Dylan. I know you're listening to this every week in our group chat. He's out here checking where's the episode if it's not on time. And it keeps us humble, lets us know you care. So shout out to Dylan. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you.
It keeps us honest. Thank you. Thank you, Dylan.
So we're finally here for you. And this week we've got a full slate of topics to cover. The way this show works is Andrew and I bring whatever we are into at the time, whatever we've been playing, watching, maybe even reading, whatever, listening to, we bring it to this podcast and we dive into it, usually with a couple of different topics, and then we wrap things up at the end with a tier list, hence the name the Teardrop Pod. We try to make it themed off of at least one of our topics this week, or any week, I should say. This week was a bit of a challenge, and so we are wrapping things up with a Naughty Dog tier list, the developers of The Last of Us, because Last of Us Season 2 premiered last night, as of when we were recording this. So you may wonder, how is that relevant? But that's how. You see, it's all connected. I'll very briefly talk, I guess, very, very top level thoughts on that, but Andrew hasn't had a chance to watch it yet. So our plan is to jump back and discuss that next week in a little bit more detail. But, yeah, I think normally we go back and, I go through all my topics and then Andrew goes through all of his topics. We decided this week, don't let me yap that long. Why am I doing that? Someone shut me up. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth with our various topics to see if that maybe helps the flow. So definitely give us that feedback. And you know where you can do it? In the comments section of the Spotify podcast you're listening to right now. Yes, you can go comment and tell us what you think. And if you're not doing it there, if for some reason you're saying, Chris, you're stupid, I'm not listening on Spotify, I'm listening on YouTube. Well, I'm happy to report they also have a comment section. So go ahead and write it there instead. Now, if you're listening on Apple Podcast, we're going to need you to go ahead and give us 5 stars. Definitely keep listening to us there, but then also just go to one of those other 2 platforms, because I don't think you can comment. You know what you could do? You could write us a 5-star review, and in that review, say whatever you were going to say in the comments section. That also works. So there's plenty of ways for you to give your feedback, and we appreciate
it, or else
all of it.
Is what Chris is saying.
Exactly. You like how I made it a little jokey joke, but it was a really subtle, under the radar reminder that everyone can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, or podcast. That's crazy. But that's true. Breaking news. You're here first. So
breaking news.
Alrighty. With all that out of the way, I guess we can just hop into our first topic of the week. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's just go right into it, dude. What you got?
All right. I know you all are looking for the most hot and pressing game news, video game discussions, TV show analysis when you come to this podcast. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you when I bring up the game Yakuza Kiwami. A release from a mere 6-7 years ago of a game originally released on the PlayStation 2. The most modern take you're ever going to get. I have continued my Yakuza journey. I finished this game. This game is done. Beat it.
Whoa.
It's done. In the tank. It is not as big of a monster as some of the other Yakuza games. How long to beat has mainline, I think, around 19 hours for this one. I think my final play time was around 25, 26. Yeah, this is a remake of the original Yakuza game for PS2 that was remade for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox Series, Xbox One consoles. So it is a fresh coat of paint I'm pretty sure it was made after Yakuza 0 because it does reference those events, which obviously wouldn't have happened in the original PS2 game. So I'm not 100% clear on the differences between Kiwami, the remake, and the original, because it's not like I've never played the original, so I couldn't, I didn't have a point of reference. But there are definitely some things that they must have changed because it does reference 0, which came later. But just to set you up narratively, this game starts. I don't think this is really a spoiler. I'm pretty sure it's like kind of the back of the box information you would get here. You start as Kiryu, who witnesses a crime that he doesn't commit, but he takes the fall for, which puts him in jail for 10 years. And you are released from jail after those 10 years to find the world having pretty drastically changed, as well as the Yakuza families that you were in. And at the time, there is suddenly this big sort of fight going on for, I think it's 10 billion yen, I want to say is what it is. It's this large sum of money, that has gone missing, been stolen, whatever, from some of the families. And there somehow mysteriously is this little girl named Haruka that is at the center of it all, and Kiryu finds her in distress, and the game kind of centers around him trying to both protect her and also figure out the mystery kind of that's going on within the Yakuza at the time, which is kind of spearheaded by his former brother in the Yakuza, Nishiki, being seemingly having undergone a complete change of character and is now a bit going through some stuff, we'll say. He's not the man that Kiryu thought he was, or he was when Kiryu left. And so that's really the basic narrative premise. But it's the typical Yakuza gameplay, a beat 'em up action game. Andrew,
does it feel like Yakuza 0 like at all, or does it feel like it's like own thing?
It does. It feels very similar. You can rotate between 4 different fighting styles for Kiryu. One of them is the dragon style, which you upgrade as you go, kind of by doing this. So Majima is one of these other characters in the game that's very famous, very popular, whatever. I don't think this was in the original game, but there's this feature where he just chases you around town the entire game trying to fight you. His whole thing is like, I want to make you're a wimp now that you got out of jail. You suck. You've forgotten everything. So I'm just going to keep fighting you because I want you to get stronger again so that I can have the ultimate fight with you.
Okay. He's like your rival, like in like Pokemon or something. I thought you were talking about like George Romero, like Call of the Dead style.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's more truth to that than I can say without getting into spoilers. But yeah, he is constantly chasing. So that's how you upgrade one of them is primarily through that mini game. The other ones you upgrade in Yakuza 0, you use the money that you earn in game to buy upgrades for all of the 3 different ability types or fighting styles, I guess, for each character. And this one, you just get experience for doing side quests, for fighting, for doing anything really. And that currency is how you upgrade. So it's a little different in that sense, in that I was completely finished with the upgrade skill trees when I was done because of the experience I just got organically, except for the one that you have to get upgrade by fighting Majima, because you just have to fight him so many times. But structurally, yeah, it's very similar. It's still like square, 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 triangle kind of combos that you're kind of rotating between variations of. Now, Andrew, when we talked about Yakuza 0, you asked me a very important question. Do you remember what that was?
I don't. Oh,
go ahead and roll the tape, folks.
I'll edit it in. I'll put it in. Perfect. We'll put it in post. Yeah. Did I ask you the rankings?
You did. You asked
Is that the important question?
Where I would rank Yakuza 0. So, just to catch everyone up, I'm sure we're getting new listeners every day, so you maybe not had a chance to catch up, of course. When you saw we were talking about Yakuza Kiwami, you said, now I'm jumping in. Previously, my ranking, as I recall, was Yakuza Like a Dragon, Yakuza 0, I think it was Infinite Wealth, then it was The Man Who Erased His Name.
That sounds right.
Yakuza Kiwami pretty easily fits into that, because I don't need to move anything. I just slide it right at the bottom, because this game's kind of a stinker.
It's a stinker? No.
I mean, look, Yakuza is my comfort food at this point. Even when there were moments where I was acknowledging that it had some pretty major flaws, I was like, yeah, but it's still just like what I've been doing for so long at this point with the series, that like there is something comforting about it. And because it is still taking the bones of a PS2 game, like I understand that they probably wanted certain aspects of it to remain faithful, but yeah, this game is very easily the worst of the series that I've played so far, unfortunately.
Dang.
It has, I can think off the top of my head of 3 boss fights in it that were absolutely miserable to get through, because they were just incredibly tanky and way too much of like, I guess not bullet sponges, but like punching sponges, I guess, or had these mechanics where they were just using these ranged attacks on you that, so in the Yakuza games, if you get like shot or something, and this one specifically, it happens a lot, you fall over and you have to mash X to get yourself back up. So when you are constantly getting shot in these fights, it just absolutely destroys the pacing of the fight, because you just have to sit there and you drop your combo and you just keep mashing X over and over and over again. Yeah, the boss fights are really weak. The story, I think, is the weakest of the games. And it's interesting because you're definitely going back to a lot of the places that you went to in 0, right? And 0's a prequel, so in theory I should be like, oh well, I mean, I guess technically this did it first and 0's the copycat. And like there are a lot of shared elements between all the Yakuza games. This was the first time where I was like, there's a climactic fight near the end, and I'm like, this is exactly where we went for the climactic fight in 0, and I'm way less invested. And some people who are fans of the series may think that I'm referencing, I'm not talking about the final fight, because that area is like kind of iconic and like it feels a little bit more fitting, I guess. I'm talking about like the fight before the final fight, really, where it's like, why here of all places? I don't know. There's just so many shared things that give a sense of deja vu in a way that is kind of, I think the reason it sticks out to me in this game and it doesn't in all the others where there's so many other shared elements, are because it's kind of just worse here. Like at least in the other ones, there's always, I'm either invested enough or they do something differently enough that it's almost kind of, like I said, it's like comfort food. Like I don't mind coming back to the same place. Like you're in Kamurocho, the main city, in almost all these games at some point. And like I love being back in Kamurocho. Like I have the city memorized at this point, basically. Like that's fine. But the problem becomes when this is like the worst iteration or version of that, I guess, when I've already done it in other times. The worst thing, unfortunately, I can say about it is that the side quests are bad. The side quests,
no,
the most important thing.
That's what you like the most about these games.
That's one of the reasons why I finished this game when I did, because I was like, I'm not going back and doing all these. These kind of suck.
Dang.
They're so similar to each other, and there are still some good ones, you know, but they do not have the personality or the charm or the kind of, I don't know, almost like poignant. There's almost always either like a pun or like a joke or something emotionally poignant at the end of side quests in Yakuza. That's kind of like what makes them worth doing. And in this one, it's like there's not, for most of them. It's like it just kind of ends, and I don't really feel like I got anything out of it. And there are so many that are just the same concept of someone's trying to scam you. And it's like sometimes, yeah, they're kooky or scams, I guess, but like, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's still not like, I would give it, I want to say I gave it like a 6 or a maybe somewhere between like a 6 and a 7, like a 6.5, maybe 7.
I mean, it's not like it's not like bad, but like in comparison, I guess.
Yeah. It is, and I don't want to like harp on it too much because it is like an old game. I know most people are probably not going to actually go back to it anyway, but it is just interesting for me to kind of document this, my thoughts on this series as we go. And you know, I'm glad I did, in the sense that like I'm getting that history filled in of the series. And I've heard that Yakuza 2, which also got the Kiwami treatment, the remake treatment, is much better and kind of like a return to form as far as to what I'm used to the series being. So I am excited still to get to that. But I will be taking a little bit of a break.
What year did this game come out?
Yakuza, the original, or Kiwami?
I guess Kiwami. I mean,
Kiwami came both, out in 2016 in Japan, and 2017 worldwide.
That was supposed to be like the remake, right? Or this is the remake.
Yes, that is the remake of the original. And the original release date was December 2005 on the PS2. So it's a 20-year-old game that they're basing it off of.
I just didn't realize that Yakuza had been around for that long. Like, I knew it's got, you know, whatever, 18 billion games, so I figured it'd been around for a minute, but I didn't think for 20 years it had been around. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's so wild, man.
So it's so funny. I'm looking at reviews for it now. It's got a 75 on Metacritic, so I'm not that far off. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's about right.
You know, and I still think it's important. You know, like obviously it laid the foundation for what was to come. So you can still feel the soul of it in there, but yeah, it's just got a lot of monotony to it. There's a lot of backtracking, going back and forth to the same spots for no real particular reason. The Majima fighting over and over. Like, I wanted to play this game and 2 because I knew Majima was in them relatively heavily, and I'm leading up to the pirate one that came out earlier this year that I want to play before the end of the year so I can include it in my rankings. And dude, he's just so like annoying in this game. Like, he is funny. Like, it's just annoying how often he shows up, because the fighting got to the point where I was like not enjoying it because some of the fights were just too long or too whatever, or too repetitive. So a little unfortunate, but it's still a Yakuza game. It's not like it's not bad. I would not start with it. Like, definitely do not make this your first one. Start with either 0 or Like a Dragon. And then if you want to go ahead and be a sicko like me and try and play through them all, it's not like unbearable. But, you know, and a series this long,
and from here you're gonna go to 2 and 3 and like all the other ones, right?
Yeah,
like you're gonna make your way through these games.
I'm too deep in now to give up. Yes. So my plan right now is I'm taking a little break because I did play 0 and 1 pretty much back to back, and like I was starting to get a little burnt out, but then I was literally telling someone today, I was like, I got Kiwami 2 because it's on sale right now for like $11 on the PSN, and I was like, yeah, but I could start 2. You know, I could just go ahead and keep playing more Yakuza. Like, it is truly such comfort food for me at this point, in like a good way. But I'm not going to start 2, I don't think, until later this year, because next week, Clair Obscur, the game that we talked about, Expedition 33, is coming out, which I'm super stoked for. I'm working through a couple things right now. I don't want to start Kiwami 2 before that, because I know I'm not going to finish it beforehand, and I want to give Clair Obscur all my attention. And then like not that long after Clair Obscur is going to be Doom, and what's that game you've been looking forward to? Lost Soul Aside, I think, comes out in May.
Lost Soul Aside.
Night Rain comes out in May.
Same day as Night Rain.
Maybe we get a Switch 2 in June. So I'm thinking like summer might be when I start Kiwami 2. But honestly, realistically, if I have enough of a gap and I don't have anything else speaking to me right then, I could just fall right back in that trap.
Just run through it.
We'll see. Because I do, like I said, I want to. 2 is the next one that I know has a lot of Majima in it because it was included after the fact, and I'm not going to play 3, 4, 5, and 6 before I play the new one. So 2 is where I will stop before I get to the new one. So my goal is to finish both of those by the end of the year, and I'm enjoying going through them all. But
nice.
That's where we're at.
Very cool.
A very long talk about a very old game, so I apologize for that. But you also have been playing a not incredibly new game and finishing it. Am I correct?
That is correct. Yeah. I might have mentioned it on a previous pod, but before the Switch 2 comes out, it is my goal to run through my my Nintendo Switch 1 backlog of games that I either haven't finished or haven't touched, even though I purchased like the majority of them, and just finish them. Or at least attempt to finish them. But I started off with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which I remember enjoying a good bit whenever it first came out. For some reason, just didn't stick with it. I would come back to it every now and then, and I'd play a level or two, and just like, this is like fun for sure. And then I sat down the other day. I was like, I'm going to beat this game. I'm going to beat this game. I sat down and I beat the game, and it was actually really, really good, dude.
Is it? How is the ending?
I think it is crazy. I mean, it's, oh my god, dude, just thinking about it like gives me like kind of goosebumps. It really is like nuts for like a Kirby game. Like, and I haven't beat many Kirby games. I think it's like pretty well known, like that at the end of most Kirby games, like you just fight some like crazy, ridiculous, all powerful being. Yeah. Like, which, I mean, happens in this game. Like, spoiler warning, like, sorry, it happens again for the 20th time. But dude, it's actually really cool, and a lot of the complaints that I had with this game were with the difficulty and stuff, just because easy, in the beginning, right? It is really easy. Yeah, it's just super easy, like baby easy, which, like, understandably, I mean, it's supposed to be like a literal children's game. Like, this is for, literal 5-year-olds to pick up a Switch and play and just be able to. Dude, by the end of this game though, I was struggling.
Wow.
It actually gets like genuinely hard. I had to use, so at a certain point in the game, you unlock this Coliseum, right, where you can go in and there are different cups and you can do like different gauntlets, like boss rush mode basically is what it is. And in the post game, after you do all of the post game stuff, you unlock like one final cup. And I had to use some cheater items for that, dude.
Wow. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. I sat there with it for like 2 hours because it's 12 rounds of like all of the hardest bosses in the game, which are like relatively difficult. Most of the other cups, they give you like, health top offs and like stuff between rounds. This one doesn't give you like any of that. Like, you got to make it all the way through the entire thing, basically like knowing every attack pattern of every boss, which they're not that hard to memorize, but by the time you get to like the very end, it's so much. There's like an item shop that gives you like an attack boost stat up and like a speed boost stat up, and another thing where you can like double your max health. It's like I stocked up on all those. I had to use them. Like I would not have been able to get through it because whenever it gets to the very end, they're like they take the final boss and then they just like amp them up, like crazy damage. They got a couple extra moves, like all this crazy stuff, and it's genuinely hard. It's genuinely very hard. But so that kind of put me up on it just a little bit. Upon finishing it, I think that we put it too low on our tier list the other day. Really? I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I really do think that we put it too low. So I'm kind of beating myself up about it now because I think we put it in the B tier.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, we put it in like the middle of the B tier. I think that it's an A tier game, which I hate to say because we also put Breath of the Wild in the B tier. I'll never forgive you.
No, maybe you're right. Yeah, it probably is better than that. Yeah, I should give it another shot. It just, I got through a good bit of it. I remember like a couple hours worth, and it's not bad by any means. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'm just kind of playing through this. I'm not like feeling that much while I do it. And part of that I do think was the difficulty. So it's good to know that does pick up a little bit. But I'm surprised you picked this. Yeah. Why did you pick this one specifically to go back to when you know that it's getting a Switch to enhanced version?
I thought about that about halfway into me being in the last world. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm about to just play it again anyway. Yeah, I don't really know. I think this is the one that always like spoke to me the most, and every time that I would pick it back up, like after, whatever, a few months, and be like, oh yeah, I forgot how fun this game was, and then I put it back down, and then I pick it up. I've had this like weird like on-off relationship with it for years, so I wanted to like sit down and like force myself, and I got to a point where I didn't even need to force myself. Like I was at work, and I was like, dude, I just want to play Kirby. That's all that I want to do right now, which I've never felt like that. Like Kirby games for me, historically, are not very fun. I don't like the majority of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like I said, they're all just like baby easy. The only Kirby game that I've ever genuinely liked is Kirby 64, and that game came out 25 years ago. More than that. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's almost probably 30 years old at this point. But yeah, I mean, I think that of the Kirby games that I've played between Kirby 64 and Forgotten Land, I mean, this is the best one since that, for sure. I played a couple of the Game Boy Advance ones. Yeah, I know. But I played like Amazing Mirror, which was kind of like I don't want to call it like an open world Kirby game on the GBA, but it was like a Kirby with like an interconnected map, kind of like Metroid, which was fun, but I didn't like Kirby enough to like that game. And then I played Nightmare in Dreamland, which is another Game Boy Advance one. That's like a childhood defining game for me. Even like going back to it, I'm like, this is still a good game. I beat that game so many times, dude. Oh my god, I must have played through that game like 10 times whenever I was a kid. Maybe I'm a Kirby fan.
Yeah, secretly, that's why this one spoke to you, because somewhere deep down your heart knew that you need to let this free. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What I guess do you think made it better? Was it as you went? Was it just the fact that you get these different items as you're going, like the power-ups? Was it the level design? What spoke to you?
The level design stays roughly the same throughout. The levels definitely do like ramp up in difficulty like a little bit, but I think it's more I don't know if you remember you could like level up like your copy abilities.
Yep.
And at a certain point, like once you get all of them leveled up like to their max, they get crazy, dude. And they actually get like fun. Specifically like the sword ability. Like you get like some crazy stuff with that sword ability, and that's like all that I used the entire rest of the game, because it's genuinely fun. Like I always forget that Kirby has like an actual like dodge maneuver. If you like crouch and press jump at the same time, Kirby like slides out of the way. Which I found myself using that a lot for like bosses and stuff, and it gives you like a sense of like mobility, because Kirby doesn't have mobility, dude.
Yeah, he's so floaty, and he's like kind of slow. So that's kind of why I think that's partly why as a platformer it didn't work a ton for me. On top of the difficulty, it was just like there's no momentum necessarily, I feel like, but there are a little more open areas for you to explore, more so than I guess, and more combat oriented than maybe some other platformers where it's more jump based. So
yeah, I was definitely surprised by how whenever I really got to thinking about it, like how combat oriented this game is. Like it is very, very deep in the combat, especially by the time you get to like the post game and the end game and all that kind of stuff. It relies really, really heavily on that. So I definitely would say go back and at least like try to get to the end, and then if you like the end, go to the post game stuff, because it was really short. I 100%ed it. I got every collectible, I don't know if you remember the little gotcha figurines that you would get for things. Some of those are so annoying to get.
Stole that from Astrobot. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I had to sit there and freaking roll that thing for like an hour to get all of the.
Dear Lord, that sounds like torture, man.
Yeah, that part was not the fun part, but everything else about it was really fun. So highly recommend. I think it took me 30 hours to get 100% on it. So it was I want to say like relatively short for a Nintendo game. I feel like that's a pretty meaty chunk.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was good. Also in my Switch backlog, just kind of a quick one, because I've only just picked it back up, was I picked back up Pikmin 4.
Did you not beat that whenever?
I did not beat Pikmin 4.
Oh, okay.
I beat Pikmin 3.
Okay. I
Pikmin 3
remember how
like
hot you were on the series as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, I had never played, so I'm such a fake Pikmin fan. Like I've literally only ever played 3. I never played 1 and 2. 3 is where I jumped on. And so I was really excited for Pikmin 4 whenever it came out. and I'm now beginning to remember why I hopped off of Pikmin 4.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think that I might have put it too high on the tier list.
wow. Do you? I should probably ask this off camera, but I'm curious. Do you save like pictures or anything of those tier lists whenever we're done with them, or like download the final versions?
I don't, but if you need it.
Oh, you did. Okay,
Sorry, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it pulled up.
Where was?
We put it at the bottom of A tier.
Yeah, I trusted you,
Yeah, we
man.
put it at the bottom of A tier. I actually think that it goes something like that.
Wow.
Where Kirby gets moved up and Pikmin maybe gets bumped down.
Swap them out.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Just because, yeah. Because, man, dude, I don't know what it is. I think with Pikmin 4, it's when we were making the tier list, I kind of talked about it. Where like you don't have like the time constraint of you only have a certain amount of days to beat a Pikmin game before you get a game over, or I don't really know what happens whenever you run out of days.
No one's ever actually done it. There's no way. We can't say for sure.
Nobody knows. It's never been done. But yeah, this game doesn't have that at all. So I don't feel like in a hurry to like strategize with my time at all, or like really kind of pick up the pace. Like it's an Ochi, the dog. He makes the game way too easy, dude.
But he's so
this
cute.
Game is,
but he's so cute.
He is so cute. He's so broken. He's like overly broken. He has the power of 100 Pikmin, bro. I don't even have 100 Pikmin in my freaking squad.
I have the strength of 100 Pikmin in the power of my paw. Okay. You can't even mimic a fraction of our power. That's wild.
He's just so broken. Like it's gotten to the point where it's like I almost feel like the game is like playing itself. Like I'm just running around and just throwing Pikmin at things. It's such like a turn your brain off kind of thing. Whereas I didn't feel like that with Pikmin 3. With Pikmin 3, I felt like I needed to freaking hustle. Otherwise, like I was gonna die or something. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll actually look up what happens whenever you don't beat a Pikmin game in time. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna stick with it to the end. I picked it up for probably about 5 more hours, and I can't see myself getting all the way through it.
I want you to guess what Pikmin 4 has on OpenCritic.
I mean, it's probably still like reasonably high. I'd say it has like a 86, maybe an 84.
88.
88. Yep. Wow.
And
it really is like still probably a good game for like people who have never touched a Pikmin game. Like you're gonna love this game. This is a great like jumping on point for Pikmin people, just because it is like kind of simplified in a way.
Now,
which really like the only like stress that I get is from the Dandori battles, which is like the thing that I was talking about, where you battle somebody else and who can basically manage their time the best when you're like fighting Olimar and stuff for most of the game. So that element is still in there. It's just not in like the main game, and I'm kind of missing it.
Now look, if you really hate yourself and you decide you're going to keep playing it even if you're not enjoying it, one thing that they say on the review summary here, excellent post-game content. So maybe if you just keep going, it gets good. You just have to...
Maybe it's a Kirby situation where the beginning is just way too easy, and then by the end, I'm fighting God.
Could be. And his name is Olimar. I don't know. Ironically,
just throwing Pikmin at a human-sized Olimar.
Pikmin 3, only an 85 on OpenCritic. Now, that is the deluxe version. That's like the Switch port. I don't know if maybe somehow the Wii U one scored lower. I mean, I think they're basically the same game, but
I could definitely be wrong too. That's just what I...
No, I just...
Now you got me curious.
Well, no, I only looked because I thought I remembered Pikmin 4 being well received, but I'd always heard more about Pikmin 3, and so I wasn't exactly sure where that all fell, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm surprised that Pikmin 4 is actually that high.
Yeah. It's truthfully not like bad. Just from like from how I remember Pikmin 3 being, it's just not there. Yep. And and I just wish that it was. But I'm gonna maybe I'll see about some post game content. Maybe I'll mess around and get all the way to the end. I will have to kind of force myself though.
I don't think it's worth it, man.
It's probably not worth it. Next on the list is like Luigi's Mansion 3.
I would be really curious to hear
and
about that as well, because I feel like that one is, I don't know. It sounds like you've kind of made your decision on Pikmin 4, but Luigi's Mansion 3, that's another one that I know got received really well. I just didn't hear that much about it afterwards.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, I was kind of debating whether or not to go into Pikmin 4 or Luigi's Mansion 3. I feel like I made it farther in Pikmin 4, so I kind of wanted to get into that to see if I can maybe make it to the end faster. I'm struggling, brother. I'm struggling.
Maybe you'll be such a big fan of Luigi's Mansion 3 that you'll convince me to get it. We can do the Guigi Mansion multiplayer mode. That's not actually going to happen, but maybe.
Insane. It would never happen. Maybe. I would never ask you to do that.
For the content. For the content.
But enough about Nintendo. We've been talking about too much Nintendo these past few podcasts. What are your thoughts on your next game that you've been playing?
Yeah, not a Nintendo guy here, but me, Mr. Xbox, of course, talking about the Xbox promoted game, Clear Obscure Expedition 33, talking about Doom Eternal. One of the other games that was in the Xbox Developer Direct we saw this year is out. It is called South of Midnight. This is a game developed by Compulsion Games, I believe, which is an indie studio that has made We Happy Few and Contrast. Contrast was a PS4 launch game, I remember, at least launch window, because it was like one of the first PS Plus games you could get. It was like Resogun and Contrast were right around the very start. And I remember playing it, and I didn't finish it, but I was like, it's pretty cool. I remember visually We Happy Few looking really cool, but I never got around to it. I heard kind of mixed things about it. And now their next game, South of Midnight, is the first game that they've made since being acquired by Microsoft. It is on Game Pass, and it's good. I am 2/3 of the way through it, I think. There's it says how many chapters there are as you go. Like if you just count how many like little lore things are there, you can figure it out. So I don't really think it's a spoiler. There's 14 and I'm on like 9, I think. So I am.
Oh dang! So you've actually made it like a good chunk of the way through it.
Yes, and it's a relatively short game. I think How Long to Beat has it at 9 hours, and I'll definitely be around that. And there's not much variety in that window of how much longer you could take, because this game is almost as linear as it could possibly be, which to some people might be a bad thing. And I do think that it's a choice. I really like linear games. I mean,
Me too.
I think it's kind of nice to be funneled down this distinct path. And, you'll get to these zones where there's like a little path to the side where you'll find a couple of extra upgrade tokens, or you'll go off to another side and you can do an extra combat arena if you want. And so there's enough variety there where you're not literally just walking down a straight line. And the environments are gorgeous. And so it's kind of fun to just walk around and explore them a little bit more. But the reason I say this game is good and not great at this point, at least, is just because it's really simple. It's really simple and really straightforward. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it also isn't something that excels it beyond good at this point for me. People always talk about substance versus style. And I think this game has a lot of style. And what the substance is there isn't bad, but it's, once you have, I was thinking about this as I was playing it today. Up to this point, a little over 2/3 of the way through, once you've played this game for about 2 hours, you have structurally pretty much experienced everything the game has had to offer from there on for the rest of the game. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, Yeah,
I mean,
I think it's a little unfortunate that this game is probably going to be held to a certain standard because it's a Xbox, first party studio game, right? When you look at those other games I listed that they've made, like they are an indie studio. And if I looked at this just as like a small indie game that had been released just on Game Pass, I'd be like, yeah, this is cool. I do think that when you walk into it thinking, okay, this has got Xbox money behind it, like, you know, it's got probably a bigger budget than a lot of other games. You know, it's really heavily promoted by them. They've had a lot of time to work on it. Maybe your expectations are a little higher. But I think just going in, if you are a fan of like 3D action platformers, then cool. I think that you will probably like this game, and especially if you already have Game Pass, it's at least worth checking out for sure. You know, it reminds me a lot of Kena Bridge of Spirits. Did you ever play that game?
Oh yeah, I love Kena.
I don't think
I really like that game.
Yeah, I don't think it has as much. It's tough. I think this game has more style to it than Kena. I think Kena was a very pretty game, but it wasn't. This game definitely is more artistic, which I appreciate. But that game's combat, even if it was relatively simple, was very challenging. And this game is simple and not that challenging. And so that, I think, takes some of the depth away that Kena had. But they're very similar games otherwise, and that you kind of get to these more open areas and you look around a little bit to kind of collect stuff as you go. And then you'll go to this one zone and do a fight. And as you clear it out, then you go to the next area. Like, I could point out, I could list you the structure of South of Midnight very clearly. Like, okay, the game starts, it's a narrative sequence. You get read some stuff out of this chapter in the storybook. You go through this kind of linear, especially linear zone. Eventually you'll get to a place where there's like 3 different areas with combat. And as you go through that, you'll run to a couple combat zones. Then you'll get to this other area where you have to go through, say, 3 different combat zones specifically to clear this out, and then get to the end of that objective. You'll have this little on rails kind of race that you're doing against this sort of antagonist, and then you fight one like big thing, and like that's pretty much just over and over again.
That's like every like chapter.
Yeah. And so, you know, and some of that is spread out longer. Like maybe one chapter is more just linear thing, and then one, it won't end with the boss or something, and then the next one will or something. But generally, you are only going to be doing that kind of thing, and so if you are enjoying that, then I think you'll enjoy it throughout. I mean, they add a couple of things as it goes. I think one of the biggest negatives I will say is that like you get a lot of your tools kind of early on, and I'm getting the sense there won't be that many more that I'm getting through the end of the game. I could be wrong. You know, I'll check in. You know, I'll give it its due if I finish it and you get a lot more. But I think I pretty much have most of my kit at this point. And it's not like this. The combat, I think, is relatively satisfying. It's just very straightforward and kind of.
And anything that I've seen with like the combat and like especially like just how you like move through the level, like it reminds me in a lot of ways of like kind of like the old school like PS2 kind of like action platformers. Like it anytime that I see it, I feel like I see so many similarities with a lot of those games, which is not like inherently like a bad thing. Like some of those kinds of games are like my favorite games ever.
Yeah, it feels like it comes from a time where games were more simple, and I don't think. Yeah, I also don't think that's a bad thing. I'm enjoying it.
I truthfully welcome that. Like more of that in games is. I honestly feel like is really like healthy.
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of refreshing, you know. And so and again, especially with it being a Game Pass game, you know, and I hate that Game Pass is really kind of, I feel like, messed with some of my expectations where I'm like, oh, that's a cool indie game. I'll wait and see if it comes to PS Plus or Game Pass, because it might be worth like $20, but I don't want to spend that much more than it. And, you know, I might get it for free or whatever. Like, obviously devs are putting a lot of effort and time into these things, and they, you know, I think this game I think it costs $40. You know, I don't think that's an unreasonable price. Where I'm at in my life right now, I personally say, like, you know, I'm glad I could get it with Game Pass. I think if I were paying for it, I would probably be, you know, looking hopefully more for like a $20 range, but it's worth 40, I think, as a product, especially like when you look at the production behind a lot of it. It does have really high production values in that the art style is really cool. The environments are gorgeous. It's really fun to just look around. You know, there's not many games we get in the South, you know, in the deep South. and so it's really cool to see something set in that. Kind of to set it up narratively for folks who don't know, it's about this girl named Hazel who lives in this New Orleans type of area where her and her mother live in this trailer, and as a storm comes through, it sweeps their trailer away with her mom inside of it, and she has to kind of go through this swamp kind of bayou area to try and save her, find her. And as she goes, she finds out that she's a weaver who is able to use these kind of like hook things to kind of reweave the tapestry of humanity, basically, when people have been really hurt or gone through these really negative experiences or traumas. You know, she's able to see these kind of whispers of it, whether it's these personifications and these like demonic kind of looking enemies, or these more fantastical beast versions of things that they're going through. But she can like see visions of, you know, the past and traumas that people have been through that have kind of led to them feeling that way and have kind of poisoned the well, so to say, in certain areas. And you know, so I think it's cool. You know, it's a sad game in a lot of ways when you see some of the traumas that they go through, but it is also incredibly stylized. Like, it feels so true to what I interpret to be that storytelling of that kind of area of the world, like the New Orleans style, the kind of you know, the accents that you hear some of the different creatures have, and it's all done through this sort of stop motion style animations that I wish were almost even more exaggerated. Like, I remember in the Spider-Man games when they added the Miles Morales skin, and it would get run at the frame rate of the movies and stuff like that. I'm not technical enough to know. I know that is based off of like it running at a lower frame rate, I think, than everything else or whatever, is how they get that kind of stop motion look. I feel like the game could have gone for even more an exaggerated effect of that, because there's certain times where it doesn't feel as much, but you can definitely see it in cutscenes. And I don't know if maybe during combat it would get a little messy. I mean, it is there. Like, you can see her like swinging her arms, and it has like the kind of the what you think of when you think of Nightmare Before Christmas kind of thing. So it is there. But yeah. Even more of that would have been, you know, is cool, but it is well done. And same with like the music, you know, it's a very kind of southern jazzy bluesy sound that is really cool. And some of the boss fights specifically are, you know, they're not like musical numbers, but, you know, you hear the music kind of crescendo and swell in ways that's really cool, with these sung pieces that you wouldn't normally get. You know, a lot of the video game stuff is just going to be orchestral and things like that. So it has a lot of personality. And so I'm trying to make sure I highlight that too, because I don't want it just to come off as like, this game is a whatever. Like, I think this game is a good, like, somewhere between a 7 and an 8 based off where I'm at right now. And I'm glad I'm playing through it.
It's still not bad. Yeah.
But it does feel like a game from a different time in some ways, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But
I was about to say, I think you saying that has sold me on it even more.
Great. Yeah.
Because I really want more of those like kinds of experience. You know, a little 9-hour game, linear, relatively simple combat. I don't have to go into all these crazy skill trees and like do all this crazy stuff. Like, just a nice like linear story that doesn't take me 100 hours. I know it. I kind of do it to myself whenever I play, 100-hour JRPG after 100-hour JRPG.
Yes. Yeah. It's a great palate cleanser. And,
yeah,
there's not been a single moment where I've been like, oh, I don't think this is good. This isn't well done. Like, I don't really have anything negative to say about it. I just don't have like necessarily something that I'm like super glowing about with it at this point either. But it's definitely more positive than like, if it was a more middle of the road kind of take, I would say it's definitely still leaning definitely way more on the positive side of that.
Sick. Yeah, you definitely sold me on it, because I tried We Happy Few a few years back. I don't know if you ever got around to playing We Happy Few.
No, I always thought it looked cool visually.
Yeah, I always thought that like visually it really looked cool, and it reminded me in a lot of ways of like some of the stuff in like the BioShock games. Mm-hmm. Like,
I think that's what
it reminded me of a lot of those games. Yeah. Which it kind of, it kind of got that across, but I don't know, something about that game. I don't know if it was just like, it just didn't seem polished, or I don't really remember. I mean, it's been many years since I actually played it, but I fell off of it relatively quickly. Which is why whenever this got announced and I saw that it was Compulsion, it was like, I was a little more on the fence about it. But then I saw the art style, and then everybody talking about how, the story is like relatively interesting, and it sounds like the basic premise of it sounds really cool.
Yeah,
so
I am intrigued.
I think you sold me
I will
on it a bit.
guarantee I'll see it through to the end, both because it's a very easy play and also because I'm invested enough in the narrative. I want to see what happens. So I hope that comes off as a compliment to it as well. And for what it's worth, from a polished standpoint, I think the game is very polished. I've not had any bugs or issues or anything like that. The funny thing, the only thing I have seen that's wonky is the achievement list. Like there's some weird, and there's like typos in it. Like when I'm looking at it, it says like do this, and it looks like it's supposed to say so many times, but it doesn't say how many times. So I just have like this progress bar that's like 61% filled. And it tells me what the criteria is, but it's like just missing the number, I guess, that it's supposed to be saying that I'm supposed to be doing. And I think there's like one or two like tiny typos in, like, I don't know where Compulsion is at, if they're a Canadian studio, Montreal. So maybe they're primarily French speakers and it's a language thing. I'm not sure, but there were a couple of like tiny little things in some of the collectibles that I was reading, not like things that are obviously intentionally kind of stylized in like a dialect way, but like I think in the tutorial messages that they would give you, it's like there's a word missing or something like that, in a way that again feels indie. It's like that I've seen that in indie games before and it doesn't really bother me. It's just a little weird. But as far as the game itself, I've not run into any bugs or any kind of performance issues or anything like that. It's run very well. So
nice. You become quite the Xbox fan,
dude. This year is I'm really curious to see. I know I haven't shielded for Game Pass in a while, so I had to make sure I brought back this week. I'm really curious. I don't think it'll happen because I still play the majority of my like third-party stuff on PlayStation. If there was ever a year I was going to have more gameplay hours on Xbox than PS5, or Xbox be my most played console, I should say overall, it would probably be this year because I played Avowed, Xbox exclusive that I really, really liked on Xbox Game Pass. I'm playing this. I'm going to be playing Clair Obscur on Xbox because it's coming to Game Pass. Gonna definitely play through Doom Eternal. I think there's one or two other games coming later this year that I am forgetting that I want to say are somehow Game Pass related.
Ninja Gaiden?
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden. I'll definitely give that a shot on there. I don't know, dude. They
got a good lineup, man.
They've been talking for years about saying that, you know, everyone's like, you're spending all these billions of dollars to acquire these studios, millions, I should say, to acquire these studios, and you still don't have any games. Well, it's like, that was never going to be an overnight thing, right? And I do think they took a little longer than maybe they should have in some instances, but yeah, I think this year is the closest they've ever come to coming. We're seeing the fruition of that, and in a way that is really satisfying. Dude, if Fable hadn't slipped out of this year,
oh my god,
what a banger year, dude. What is their big? They have one big game this fall too, I think, don't they? Xbox fall.
Do they?
It's they just announced what's it called? The Sifu Devs, their soccer game Rematch. That's coming to Game Pass.
Rematch?
Yeah, that's coming to Game Pass. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Not Fall Guys games on Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass Fall 2025.
Let's see. We got
I can't remember. They have something they've announced for the second half of this year that I'm just forgetting. I don't think it's Gears, but and I still need to play 33 Immortals. That's out here.
Oh yeah,
on Game Pass. It's in early access, the game preview thing, which is not typically my bag, but I did put it on our list of most anticipated games, so I should really at least try it out. Probably.
Yeah. I was about to say there was a Gears game announced though, wasn't there?
Yes.
Like a prequel.
Yeah, and I think they're aiming for that one to be this year.
If that's this year, that's crazy.
I think so.
That is super wild. I don't feel like we've gotten a date on that. Unless there's just I don't keep up with Xbox stuff.
Yeah, definitely not
like a year or anything.
Date. I'll keep looking and see if I can find whatever this fall game is that I'm forgetting. I should just look at our fantasy league, see if anyone's drafted something Xbox in there. But
true. But yeah, glad to
hear or I sabotage any more time because I'm still yapping a lot in this episode. I want you to wax poetic about. In fact, you know what? Before anyone even says anything, I just want to give you a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if Discord's picking this up, but for audio listeners, I'm clapping. I'm applauding. You know, really, it's getting more and more passionate. I'm just getting so excited.
Clap a little louder.
I'm just really, really excited because Andrew, you have beaten a video game. Do you want to tell the people what video game you've beaten?
Yeah, I beat Metaphor, REFANTAZIO, depending on who you ask.
Look.
I finally did it.
It
took
can
me
be done.
140 hours.
That's crazy. People were trying to say you could beat this game in half that time. I said, you're insane.
Insane. There's no way I was... Because I thought that I'd be able to as well. I mean, because it only takes place over 1, 2, 3, like 4 months.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in Persona time is like... That's like a third of the game.
It's much more condensed, but those, you know, with that comes more packed.
Those days
content.
Are packed.
Yeah,
those are packed days. Because like most of the time in Persona, it's like you have a month to do something. In this game, it's like, all right, you got 10 days. I'm like, bro, what do you mean I have 10 days? But yeah, I finished Metaphor, and I really liked it. It was peak. It was super peak. I was very, very happy with the ending. Of course, no spoilers. I'm gonna try to keep it very, very spoiler free. I did end up getting a lot of trophies that I didn't think that I was going to get.
Nice.
I maxed out all of the archetypes with the protagonist.
What? You did what? You mad lad, bro. How?
I'm pretty sure that I maxed them out for all of the main party members that I used.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, like I say, I spent 140 hours. Like probably 10 or 15 of that was spent in one dungeon just grinding.
Dude, I did that for like a little bit, and I wasn't even that close still by the end. You must have. Yeah, I mean, there's a really easy way to do it once you get to a certain point, because you just obviously, instead of initiating the turn-based combat, if you're high enough level above them, you just immediately win and get the XP for it. But even then, dude, that is still like you could just go restart from that tower over and over again without time passing.
Well, yeah, so there was one specific dungeon like in the end game, like before you know you go into the final area and all that.
One of the towers.
I don't even think it was one of the towers. I think it's like one of like the ruins, like towards the top. Mm-hmm. There's a room that has 2 of the mimics.
Yep.
The like chess creatures. And if you're a low enough level to where you can't just automatically kill them, if you use the thief archetype, where like if you stun something in overworld combat, you have a chance to get the item like that you would get from that combat encounter. Those mimics have the seeds that give you like 3,000 archetype XP.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So you could literally just go in there and just stun them over and over and over and over. And every like maybe 15 minutes, I was getting like 99 of these. Maybe not 15 minutes, probably 30, 45 minutes. But I just sat there and I did that. I pulled it up on one monitor. I pulled up YouTube on the other monitor. I was doing it with my eyes closed by the end of it, dude.
Man, it was busted. Just absolutely breaking the game.
Yeah, it was not the best use of my time, honestly, because I got to the end game and I just kind of swept through everything except the final boss. The final boss was weirdly hard for how leveled up I was.
The game stays pretty...
I genuinely struggled.
Like, it's engagingly challenging. I wasn't like that close to dying. I guess I did come close a couple of times. It's not like I failed and had to do anything over and over again, but it was like... Yeah. If I wasn't being careful, I still could have gotten bodied, probably. Like, it still requires you to kind of be awake, which sounds like a really low bar to set. But and sometimes these JRPGs, like you can get so over leveled where it isn't even really engaging, I think. So it is impressive.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I was very happy about, was that I went in knowing that I was super over leveled and getting to the final boss, and like it kind of doesn't matter. Like, he can still just absolutely rock you if he wants to. Like, and even some of like the optional like end game bosses, the towers, some of those actually gave me a really rough time.
Yes.
specifically like the very last fight of that set of fights.
Yeah.
I could not figure out what was going on. I kept getting into the battle and didn't even give me a chance to attack. He would just completely wipe me.
I had to look
like,
that
as
part
soon
up.
As I entered,
I don't like doing that, but I was
too.
like, truly, at one point I was like, I think that I can just brute force this with certain items I had, but it quickly became apparent that no, something I was doing was incorrect, clearly. So
yeah. And I would have never figured it out had I not looked it up. Yeah. So I'm glad that I did and figured it out. And then as soon as I figured it out, I'd beat him literally in the next try. Like, but I sat there like for like 30 minutes, like, dude, what could this game possibly want me to do? But yeah, anyways, yeah, the story is magnificent. I think that most of the characters, there's a character or two that like I maybe didn't care for as much as the other ones. But like the main party, especially Heismay, I know that I've talked about Heismay on whenever I was talking about Metaphor before, but him and his entire arc, specifically like in his social link, hits like really, really close to home for me.
I think it's one of the best social link things they've ever done. I mean, him and the last party member you get, I won't say who it is in case people consider that to be a spoiler. Just, I mean, and especially that last character's voice acting and what they go through and their performance, like, dude, it is so good. I mean, I think the party, I adore the P4 party, and, you know, Persona 4 was the first Atlas game I played. So, you know, people are always like, oh, whichever one you played first is always going to be your favorite. And like, it would be really hard for me to take the nostalgia goggles off and, you know, compare Metaphor specifically to that. But I think it's pretty easily the best cast other than P4 maybe, and maybe even better than P4 in an Atlas game, I think.
Yeah, the characters are just amazing. And I mean, I don't think any like Atlas game or Persona game has been able to like get me like emotional or anything, aside from like the very end of P5, which this is not like a new thing. Like if you've ever beat an Atlas game, like at the end where it lets you like go back and walk all around like before you finally like set off or, you know, do whatever. Like I got all the way up to the end of P5 and nothing hit me, and then I was like, dang, I spent like 150 hours here and now I have to say goodbye. Like, dang, this sucks. Actually,
again, the first time that happened to me in P4, I was like, dude, I spent and it was the first time I'd ever played a game like that where like you spent days, in-game days obviously, but also real life days when you count how much gameplay you played of these, you know, games with these characters. It's like you get so invested in a way that you just you can't manufacture that in other things. Like it has to come, I feel like, in some ways from the structure of that game and just how long it is by nature of that. Right.
But yeah, the Heismay social link, that's the only thing since that has gotten me a little on my emotional, or in my emotional feelings slightly. I love that character so much, dude.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, this story is just so, it's definitely my favorite story of an Atlas game that I've played.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
I think that it's the most creative. It's the most like, it stands out the most. From a lot of JRPGs that I've played. I mean,
it's got a really powerful message, I think, and the way
the message is really good. Like,
and it just, we don't get games. I think we talked about this one of the other times you were discussing your thoughts on it. It's like, it's a political game, not in like a Republican versus Democrat kind of way, but like in a literal most basic sense of the term, like political in how people are governing others and these systems that are in place that really you question how is the best way for us to take care of other people and how the people in power should be using that power, and what we even have the influence to change ourselves. And it's just, there's just no other games I feel like that I can think of, very few mediums in general that handle it this specifically and in this way. It's just really cool.
Yeah. It's an incredible game, like front to back. I know that I complained about it a couple weeks ago. I'm still not big on archetype system.
Wow. Yeah, you maxed out more than you
I
needed
maxed
to.
them out, but I still don't. I don't necessarily care for them. But that's literally like.
Is it just the way that you level them
pretty
up,
sure that's
like we
just
talked
my
about,
only-
or is it you just don't like them fundamentally as like picking different classes and things like that?
I don't like that every party member has access to all of them. I think that's my biggest thing. I don't like that it's so customizable.
Yeah.
I don't like that they give me too much freedom. I like to, you know, I don't know. And it's definitely such a weird thing because like freedom should be good, but I don't know. It's so different from all of the other Persona games and Atlas games in that sense. So maybe it's just something that like if I play through it again in a couple years, like I might have a better like idea of what to do, especially in like the early game. Like I had no clue what I was doing. Like I was just kind of putting stuff on stuff and seeing if it worked. But yeah, that's really my only complaint. I mean, this is like a solid like 9 out of 10 game for me for sure.
Yeah. I mostly agree with you. I think if they would just put some very tiny barriers in place so that certain archetypes didn't have prerequisites from things that you didn't know about. That's the thing, because then you can really end up investing a lot, or even just let you re-spec. That's honestly the biggest sin. The fact that you could just solve it by doing that, just by letting you respec. The fact that you have no real way of doing that is insane.
Yeah, that was definitely a big complaint that I forgot about that I had. Yeah, getting like all the way to like the end of like an archetype tree, and then oh, by the way, you got to level up this other one first.
Yeah.
All the way. And like it takes so much time and it costs so much like resources and grinding, and like it definitely feels like a grind at a certain point, which is when I just beat the crap out of some treasure chest monsters for a little bit and just that I'll do it myself, whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my time with Metaphor. Very, very, very good. I'm very happy with my purchase.
I'm glad you finished it, and I'm even more glad that you loved it. So it's a special game, dude.
I'm on the Atlas train. There's no stopping it.
Nor should there be.
B3 next.
Dude. Oh man. Get ready. Get your poor little heart ready, because it's gonna need some bandages after the beating it'll take from that game.
Really?
Yeah, that game is easily the darkest Atlas game.
Really?
I mean, I know the first two are considered a little bit more. I shouldn't say the darkest Atlas game, because all the SMT fans are going to be like, everything about these games are way darker. But definitely the darkest of the Persona, like the modern Atlas Persona style of things. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
Also, before I forget, the games that I was thinking of coming to Game Pass later this year, Hollow Knight Silk Song. Maybe you've heard of it.
True.
If that game comes out, it is a day one Game Pass game. And recently, the Xbox Game Pass Twitter account reminded everyone after it showed up in that sizzle reel during Switch 2. They were like, just a reminder, this game does come to Game Pass. So they reconfirmed that's still happening whenever that game comes out. And Outer Worlds 2, the other Obsidian game, that's their big fall one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which I didn't finish the first Outer Worlds. I really wanted to like that game, but I fell off of it a little bit. So that's not like a huge pull for me, but just to finish that thought from earlier. So
yeah. No, thank you. I'm glad that you reminded me of those, specifically Silk Song.
Yeah. And Tony Hawk,
my fantasy critic,
is coming to Game Pass. Pro Skater 3 and 4.
Is it really?
Yeah. Pro Skater 3 and 4 is coming to Game Pass this summer. So day one.
I'm so excited. Oh, I love Tony Hawk.
I have never played them, if you can believe that.
What?
Yep.
Chris, brother.
Tony
Hawk 3 and 4 both were like massive childhood games for me.
For a lot of people.
I played so much of those games.
It feels like a pretty big hole in my video game history. The only skate game I ever played was my friend's copy. It wasn't even the copy. We played the demo of Skate 2 that you could download to the PS3, and it had the Hall of Meat mode, where the whole goal was just to throw yourself off of the tops of these ramps in the most brutal ways possible, and you would get points.
Oh my god!
Depending on how much you would like crash, and it was we played that demo for hours. You had like one map that you could just do over and over again. It was
Good lord.
That's my Tony Hawk. You know?
I never liked skate, dude. I could never get into it. I don't know if it's because I had a history of Tony Hawk and I'm so used to like the arcade kind of style, like skateboard game. To get into that, and that game is like skateboard simulator.
Yeah,
like it is. It's very complicated, but maybe I'll get into it with Skate 4.
We'll see, dude.
Whenever it comes out.
I don't know if that's going to be the one to win you over, but we will see. To wrap up the last topic section before we get into our one joint topic, just a real quick rapid fire. Been watching a lot of TV lately. It is such a good year for TV. I mentioned that we will talk about Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1 next week, but just to give my top level thoughts, they are already changing a lot more in this first episode than they changed in the first season, really? I think.
No.
And so some of that I feel intrigued by. Some of it I was not sold on yet. But it was still a very well performed episode. It was cool to see those characters again. And I won't say anything more specific because I don't want to spoil it for Andrew, obviously, or anyone out there.
Thank you.
But
can I just get a quick thumbs up or a thumbs down? On just the episode itself. Just hit me with a.
I'll give it a thumbs up. You
give it a thumbs up? Ooh, that was not a very sure thumbs up.
No.
It's not a very good
guys, seriously, I'm a PlayStation fan. I'm a big thumbs up. No. I mean, like I said, what it comes down to for me is I think it was still. It's not like I started watching. I was like, oh no, the writing quality has really dipped this season so far. Oh man, they're really, shoehorning in these performances. They're really phoning them in.
Yeah.
Like the quality is there, and there are still. Like, it's not like I can't tell what's going on. It's not like it's so different from the original that I'm lost or confused. It's just they are playing with things enough that at the end of the day, what it comes down to for me is the first season. I feel like everything they added, whether it was the Bill story or the stuff with Ellie's mom or the extra time we get with Sarah and the first day before the outbreak has really started, all of that I felt like was additive. Like everything it did, I felt like enhanced the experience. So I don't need it to be a one-to-one comparison. I think it's more interesting when you do have different people's interpretations of things and they're slightly different. But it does need to enhance it. It can't just be because it needs to be there because it's changing mediums from a game to a TV show and it feels like it's just there because it has to be, which is sort of what I felt about a couple of tiny things. And I think it could not even just not enhance things, but it could slightly diminish the way certain things play out later because of how they're doing it is my concern, but we're so early on. We don't know.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that way, I think, for a lot of it. Yeah.
Have they said how many episodes?
I don't think they've said how many episodes, side, right? But they have confirmed already that there will be a season 3. So
I did see that. That should tell you a lot about where. I mean, maybe where we're gonna end up.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, people who play the games, like, there's a very clear point where you could see that happening. I was curious if they were gonna restructure some things, and after last night, I could see it going either way still. So I don't know, but it is still well done, and I still enjoyed it. We got together and saw it with some friends. We had a good time. I'm just really precious about The Last of Us. It is a series that is very near and dear to my heart, and I don't want to get nitpicky, but there could be certain things that happen that I might get a little nitpicky about.
Oh no.
So we will see.
Did you feel nitpicky about any of the stuff in the first season?
No, I don't think I did.
Really?
Not about much. I mean,
Okay.
I was a little, at first, I was a little nervous about the casting of Bella Ramsey as Ellie because I thought she looked young even for young Ellie.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure performance wise if it was going to land. I thought that they did a great job, and personality and performance wise really did embody Ellie, and especially for younger Ellie, I think really fit that role. I do think she looks really young for Last of Us 2 Ellie, and I know you can't recast. I just think the only reason I was talking to Mare about this on the ride home last night, I think I don't normally get weird about casting like this, but this season gets so brutal that I just worry that selling the performance and it not being distracting could become an issue if I'm looking at a character who I think looks too young to be doing some of the things that are happening, if that makes sense. That's my only concern, is that the age could become distracting because I'm like, you look like a child, like you shouldn't be doing this. But not the thing.
Like, how old are they?
I think they're 21. I think.
Yeah, 21.
Because we looked it up yesterday.
They definitely don't look 21.
Yeah. And from what we've seen of Abby in the trailers, I kind of feel the same way. Like Abby, that actress just looks really young to me too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I do think that Bella Ramsey could probably sell me on some of the brutal stuff based on the David episode in the first season.
Yeah,
like that's the moment where I was like, oh, they got chops. Like they could absolutely like do this if it came down to it.
And I think that it will. And there were times in last night's episode where Ellie was in the costumes from the games, and it was much less distracting to me because like I was like, oh, associating that visual with that character. So okay, even if you're
in a familiar place,
exactly. And at the end of the day, that particular concern about the casting will probably be exactly what happened in the first season, where I start and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then the performance is good enough that it's fine. I don't really realistically think at the end of the day that will bother me as much. But I do have some other concerns that I could get more specific about after you watched it. So
we'll talk about it again next week. I think the goal for us is to watch it tomorrow, hopefully.
Cool.
So
cool.
I'll come back with some updates.
I'm sure we'll be talking about this more as the season goes on, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We haven't talked about this. I don't know if we'll want to do like one for literally every episode, but like I know we didn't do that with Daredevil. I like Daredevil, Born Again. Spoilers. The season finale is tomorrow. I've really been enjoying it. But
it is tomorrow.
I don't think I would have felt the need to necessarily break down every episode of that. I mean, we could have, but this is a show that I could maybe see, like at least us touching base, even if it's just a really short segment. Because I think there's a little bit more to chew on when we both know the source material on top of the actual whatever is happening there and what they're changing. Right. There's a little bit more to chew on there, but we'll figure that out as we go. We don't have to. Only other thing I really want to briefly talk about is really just a plea. If you haven't watched Andor yet and you consider yourself even the smallest Star Wars fan, please go watch this show. It's the best written, best acted TV show Disney Plus has ever made. It is easily the best Star Wars content ever made that I've watched. I'm a relatively casual Star Wars fan. I've seen all the mainline movies, Rogue One and Solo. I've seen Kenobi. I've seen the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and now I've seen the first season of Andor. And it is the gospel truth. It is just so moving. I got a little choked up in the last episode. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah, not a full-on cry, but I was like, especially, it has so much to say about freedom and resistance and all these themes that have always been so inherent in Star Wars, but never feel like they're really at the forefront. And that is the focus of this show in such a more grounded way, with performances that are just incredible, by Andy Serkis, by that's the only actor whose name I can think of off the top of my head, but other actors and actresses for sure. And it's just, it's so good. I don't know why it took me so long to get through. I think episode 6, episode 10, and episode 12 are episodes of TV I will think about for a very long time. Like, I watched episode 6 a long time ago.
Really?
And I still think about that as, like, when I think of Star Wars, that's what I'm going to think about now more than almost anything else. Like, this is just visually beautiful. The stakes are so high. You care so much, and it's just feels so heartfelt.
Are there any prerequisites
No,
to this show?
not at all.
No? Okay.
Because it's a prequel to Rogue One, so you don't even...
That's what I thought. I thought it was more adjacent to like Rogue One.
Yeah, it is a prequel, and season 2 starts next week, so get going. There are 12 episodes. It's long for a Disney Plus show.
Dang, that's beefy.
Yeah, and it does start slow. That's the one caveat I'll say. I started this last fall, and I don't know why it took me so long to watch. I think because it was initially slow. I'll tell you what happened. The exact cadence was I was like, okay, this is a little slow. Mare wasn't going to watch it with me, so I had to find time to watch it on my own. I don't almost ever watch TV on my own. I'm usually playing games. But I was like, okay, I've heard enough good things, and I'm interested enough. I was going to the gym for like a month and a half there, and I started bringing my iPad so I'd have something to watch while I was there. And I got like 4 episodes in, and I was like, I gotta stop. This is not an iPad at the gym kind of show. I need to be paying attention, giving it my full attention. And so I watched like 3 episodes, stopped because I was like, it was a little slow. 4, 5, 6, I started to watch in the gym and then paused and watched at my house, like sitting down, giving it the full attention it deserved. 6 was so good that I was like, I feel satiated. Like, I don't even need to see anymore. Like, it feels like it's funny that so many of the shows that we watch now are like, especially on Disney Plus, are like 6-season shows, because that so easily could have been a season finale. I think that's why I took a break after it, because I was like, this feels like a good stopping point, even though I knew there was more to watch, and even though I adored it. And so I did take a little bit of a break after that, and then I watched like 7, 8, 9, and I knew something big was about to happen in 10. But I just ended up putting it off. And then I watched like 10, 11, 12. So I broke them up some weird ways just because they are heavier, more dense things. Like, you need to be paying attention. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, dialogue and things like that you really need to make sure that you're zoned in for. So in some ways you do kind of have to be in the right state of mind, but please go watch it.
Should I watch Rogue One again before I watch it, or does it just not matter?
No, my plan is to watch Rogue One after season 2.
Okay.
So, because I assume they will lead right into each other. That's my plan. Because I think it'd be really cool to get that full through line. But if you wanted to, I haven't seen Rogue One in a long time, and it definitely made me want to rewatch it again. I haven't seen it.
I probably haven't seen it since it came out.
Yeah,
but that's one of my favorite Star Wars movies, dude. Like, I think it might. Is it crazy to say that might be my favorite Star Wars movie?
Rogue One?
Even though I don't remember anything about it.
No,
but it's the one that
I think it's most people's.
The one that I
like at least top 3 or so.
Really? Okay.
It will almost certainly. It probably is my favorite, but it almost certainly will be my favorite. I think retroactively after having gotten the full lead up to it from both seasons of Andor.
Yeah, because that's truthfully like the only Star Wars movie that I remember walking out of being like, dude, like that's a freaking movie. Like, I've never been like a giant Star Wars dude. I've seen all of the movies. I know like roughly what happens. I've never found like a reason to like care. I don't really care about a lot of the characters that much. I just don't think that it's like all that. I understand why people like it so much, but I've just never really understood the hype. But that's the one movie where I was like, dude, they need to pump out some more of these, because this is good stuff.
So what makes it so special is, like, in a way, one of the things that makes it so special, I should say, is that they couldn't, like, it has to be a standalone thing. I mean, obviously they're doing what they're doing with a prequel filling in beforehand, but like, it ends. I mean, it ends so with so much finality.
Yeah.
You know,
I specifically remember the
yes,
ending.
it's just so
being, like,
powerful.
insane. Yeah.
And I feel a lot of the same way you do about the franchise. Like, I didn't watch them for the first time until I was in high school, so I don't have the nostalgia for them. And obviously, the sequel trilogies have really been a mixed bag. The prequel trilogies were considered bad or a mixed bag beforehand, and now they're like retroactively, I think, loved more because people hate the sequel so much, but that doesn't actually make them that much better, I don't think. So I think it's just been a series that's had a lot of ups and downs. And so I didn't really expect to like Andor as much as I do, but it doesn't even like, it feels like an alternate version of Star Wars in some ways, because it's like you don't see a lightsaber in the entire show. Spoilers. Like, it's not about that, you know, it's so much more grounded in ways that I think one of the biggest weaknesses of Star Wars has always been, okay, you built this really huge universe that I feel like you could do so much with. But you always focus on so many of the same things. That's a common complaint people have, I feel like.
We always go back to freaking Tatooine.
Yeah,
and like
always with the
so
Skywalkers. It always has to be connected to them.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you do something different. It works. So
nice.
10 out of 10. I'd give that show.
Dang,
like
10 out of 10.
9.5, I guess, because it is a little slow. But like at the beginning. But like, judging it just off of quality, like arguable. Like, if someone said it was like a 10 out of 10, I usually guard my 10 out of 10s. I said that a little flippantly. I would need to think about it a little bit more. I probably would say 9.5 because I do think a 10 is like the holy grail. But
yeah,
like 9.5 for sure.
Okay.
So
cool. Very cool. You want to talk about blueprints a little bit?
Yeah, this is our joint topic
just to go
here.
On to the joint topic.
Because we've both played this. I'd actually like to hear your thoughts first, if that's cool. Since one, I was just yapping, and two, I think I played it a little bit more, so maybe I can bounce off of.
Yeah, I was about to say you can probably elaborate on it a little bit more than me. I hopped in. I downloaded it on Game Pass last night, and I played probably about 30 minutes of it. Like, I did not get very far into it. It was kind of late at night, and it was kind of breaking my brain a little bit. And I was like, I need to I need to get some sleep in me before I like actually explode. Not that it's like too hard of a game, but some of the puzzly stuff, I was like, dude, I don't have the brain power at the moment. But dude, it's super interesting. Like, I don't think that I've ever played like a puzzle game kind of like it before. Just in that 30 minutes, from what I can tell of it. About, you know, what you can probably explain the concept of how like making your own like floor plan kind of deal works.
Yeah, so it's a puzzle roguelike is really what it, I guess, how you would describe it, where you start as this character who, I believe it's your great uncle, has written you into his will, but you only get it if you can get to the 46th room of his 45 room estate or something like that. And when you first walk into the manor, you start on day one, and you have 50 steps. And every time you walk into a room, it takes a step. And so once you are out of those steps, the day ends and the manor resets. It reforms itself in a new way because you're too exhausted to keep going after that. And so when you go up to a door in the manor, you have 3 different rooms at any given time that you can decide you want it to be. It could be a bedroom. It could be, I'm trying to not spoil anything. It could be a parlor room. It could be a billiard room. It could be a dining room. You know, basically any kind of thing you would expect to see in a manor. And they all have different layouts, and they all have different items or things in them that could either include a key that lets you open a door that would otherwise be locked and block off that path, or it could be a gem, which you may need to choose one of the rooms that you're given as an option because there's a currency for that. And your goal, at least initially, is just to, like I said, get to that 46 room. But when you look at the map of the manor, it's on like a grid based system, and there's I think like 9 or 10 rows, and like five horizontal, like 10 vertically or something like that. And each room has like a door on, maybe one room only has one door. And so you would then, if you pick that, you can only go that way. But then another room has like 3 different doors. So then it lets you choose 3 different ways to go from that direction. And your goal is just to try and get to, at least initially, the end as best as you can, I guess. But it's cool. It is cool. I bounced off it a little bit initially because I'm not a huge roguelike guy. I find myself a little bored with some of these games where you have to restart and do the same thing over and over again. Because it's the 50 step thing, like it's not super punishing. Like runs aren't that long. And part of the appeal that makes it a little more fun in this initial phase, at least, I guess, is choosing, okay, I can see this run is going to suck. Like I've opened doors that have ended up in closed pathways, or I can't afford the gyms, or I don't have the keys I need to go any further. Okay, so I know I have a limited amount, but now I'm just going to focus on drafting rooms I haven't drafted before so that I can see if there's information in there that, even if in a gameplay sense it's not a permanent progression, I can mentally have it as a permanent progression because I know, okay, this room has this, and that could be beneficial if I draft the right room that has some sort of connection to it next time. And so that makes it really unique. I was getting a little annoyed when I was first playing it because I think it's a little jarring how few things you can interact with in any given room when you're first starting.
Yeah. It's
like so many of these rooms, you're playing in the first person perspective, and you have like a cursor that you're kind of using to look around the room. And it gives you an icon when you can interact with something. And so I was like going around, scouring every corner of the room, looking at every portrait on the walls, looking at all the tables and stuff like that, waiting for me to be able to do something. And you just can't in most of them, which is probably good in hindsight in the long run, because it would get pretty overwhelming probably pretty quickly if you could, because there are so many types of rooms you can draft. But what that ends up meaning is that you start looking for other things, maybe, and really focusing on how it puts an emphasis on how important it is just to draft rooms that you haven't seen before, because any one of them could have something that you haven't been able to interact with before, or that does connect to something that you have seen before. And so that's been pretty fun to try to build around it that way. And Mare actually saw me playing it, and I explained what it was, and she likes puzzles. So this has become our new game that I only play when she's around, because she's keeping all the different notes of things that we're finding, and we're working through puzzles together and stuff like that. So it's become a co-op experience, which has really enhanced my playthrough of it, because she started to watch it and then ended up going to bed one night, and that was the first night I played it. And by the end of that session was when I was getting kind of annoyed, because I was like, all right, I'm seeing a lot of the same rooms. I'm kind of getting bored. But having someone there that I can like talk through the ideas as I'm going, and then like as I was catching her up, I was realizing how much actually did happen, because I was like going, oh, well, actually, I did find this note that referenced this one thing. And then I did find this one room that had a key that was specifically open this other area that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And once you start kind of talking through it with someone else, I feel like it does kind of show you just how much is there. But in the moment to moment without that, it was starting to get a little repetitive, which is, I am not inherently a roguelike guy. So take that as a grain of salt, I guess, if you're interested. But it's clicking with me more. We got really close to getting to the end of this one section, at least. I don't think that's like beating the game or anything. But you can get really screwed with your room choices, which is just an inherently annoying thing about, again, roguelikes for me specifically. Where rooms will get cut off and you literally just don't have the choice to keep going anymore.
That was where I was getting stuck. Was like I literally only did one run. Like I had enough time for one run, and then I was like, yeah, I'll maybe come back to this. And it was like I would get all the way, like I got like halfway up, whatever the blueprint is, up to the antechamber, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
On that in that area. And I just got to a point where it was like, all right, the rooms that I'm getting drafted, like, just don't give me a way to go up any further.
Yep.
So what I don't know like what really the counterplay is to that, because I know that you can get a thing that lets you like re-roll like what rooms it gives you, or I think that's pretty much it. Like you can re-roll, and like that's kind of all that I've found so far.
Yeah.
But again, I'm also like very early into it. Like I've maybe played half an hour. So maybe with more knowledge comes, more things to do. I'm not really well versed in it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very interested in it. Like it's a super interesting mechanic. It kind of reminds me of a board game. I don't know how big on board games you are.
Betrayal, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, I literally just texted Paul because I could not remember the name of this freaking game. Yes, it reminds me of that. We played it a couple times. I was like, dude, this is just Betrayal.
Yeah, the way you're like building out your pathway as you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the advice I would give to you is like I said, just if you find yourself in a run where you don't think you're going to be that successful, then just focus on trying to get new rooms, because that's the best way to figure out what you should be looking for in future runs that are more have more potential, I should say.
Okay. All right.
Because there are rooms that are more rare. And so even if like your pathway up is out, if you could like keep exploring in like a corner of the map, maybe just trying other rooms, like there are certain rooms that are like red rooms that have inherently bad traits associated with them. Like you'll have to take extra steps when you walk through them, or you lose currency when you walk through them. You're not going to want that.
I think I got one of
if
those.
you're doing a really good run. But if you draft that in a run where if you're doing a run where you already know it's going to kind of suck, then like I may as well draft this to see if there's anything in this room that could give me information that will help me later, so that I don't have to use that in a later run that I'm doing well in. So that when you switch into that mindset, it makes it feel like less of a waste. But
yeah,
there were a couple of runs we were doing today where we were finding things out, which was really satisfying, but then we got screwed, and when you're having a good run and it gets screwed up and you kind of have an idea of what you want to be doing, then that still kind of sucks. But it's not like you're spending hours and hours on these, at least not yet. I don't know if it will get that long at some point, but I've only played it for about 3 hours, 4 hours maybe, so I'm not super far into it. I've heard it can take, I think, like 16, 20 to like see credits roll. But even after that, there's much more to do. I don't know if I love it enough that I keep trying to like whatever the version of 100%ing this game looks like. But as long as Mare wants to keep playing it, she came home from work today, and we've been watching so much TV lately where we've got some other stuff we still want to watch. I was curious. I was playing South of Midnight, and she sat down and was like, so you want to play some Blueprints? I was like, oh, it's not like you don't want to watch TV, not like I'm just going to keep playing South of Midnight. You're going to be on your phone. Like you want to play through Blueprints together. So it's I do think that is a unique enhancement to my experience that obviously not everyone can have. But if you do have someone you can work through it with, I'm really enjoying that. So that's cool. Yeah,
that's actually a really good idea. I might try to rope Kayla in on it a little bit, because I think that she also likes kind of puzzly stuff, so I can probably at least get her in for a run and see if she likes it, and maybe she'll jump ship.
Yeah,
but
we'll both be able to touch back on that, I'm sure. It's the highest rated game of the year right now, I think, or at least one of them. It's like right up there. Really? I think it's right up there with Split Fiction.
I remember it was really high.
I think it was like a 92. I think it's down to a 90. And I think what's it called? I think Split Fiction is considered
Kingdom Come.
Yeah, it's tied. All three,
and Split Fiction are all tied.
All tied for 90. So
that's wild.
Pretty crazy.
Man. Somebody definitely drafted this in our fantasy critic, right?
Yeah, I think Dustin did. And he even commented in the group chat. He's like, I'm surprised no more people bid on it. And like, it was around the time I'd started to hear about it, but I should have done more research when I first heard. But these indie games, man, they're either
you just never know.
Famine, Yeah. And
you just never know, because this was in that latest like PlayStation State of Play, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning. It's on PS Plus Premium or Extra. I don't remember which of those tiers it's on, but it's on that, and it's on Game Pass, so it's super accessible.
Yeah, because it was literally in that state of play for like a minute, like tops. Like they just kind of like glossed over it for a second and then went on to the next thing. So I didn't think too much about it, and then the score started coming out. I'm like, all right, maybe I got to kind of keep an eye out on this game.
Yeah. I just, not to do a tangent on our fantasy league. My start of the year, it's pretty good. Not as crazy as some of my other ones have been. So I was like, all right, we're playing this slow and steady. That's the kind of year we're rolling with, especially one where we don't know about Grand Theft Auto or a new console. So, and even then, I've still we all bid on so much after that Switch 2 presentation.
Oh my
it was
God,
insane.
That's the most. That is the highest amount of games that I've ever seen bid on
by a
in
mile.
a single week.
Yeah, it was like 15, which I think some of them. Dylan was even just like, "Oh, I'm just putting these up here to kind of put a smoke screen, so you don't know what I'm actually bidding on."
It's
like,
actually really smart.
I
felt like a buck down on like all of them or something, right?
Yeah, I think it was last year. I was really worried. I had like one game left, one slot left to fill, and I was ahead, and people in the chat were getting a little worried, and so I was thinking that everyone was just going to keep outbidding whatever my last game was, and so I just bid on like 5, so no one knew which was the actual one I was trying to get. So there's a strategy there. I respect it, but
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, cool game. A roguelike that I will probably beat, which is not something
a rare feat
I can say about Mini. So that
very cool
brings us to the end of our topics and leads us into the titular tier list. Or do you prefer?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Is it Uncharted?
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's not bad. They should hire you for the orchestra. You should be first chair air
horn,
cellist or something.
Like not in the way you think. It's like literally just me. Yeah. We are doing a Naughty Dog tier list in honor of Last of Us Season 2 episode 1. Season 2 part 2 episode 1 part 1 of Season 2. We will be ranking and reviewing. That's kind of funny thing. They're going to sue me. I shouldn't say those exact words back to back. We're going to be listing all the Crash games, all the Jack and Daxter games, all the Uncharted games, and Last of Us 1 and 2. Andrew, tell me about your history with Naughty Dog games, please.
Yeah, I love Naughty Dog. I mean, they're definitely one of the best developers out there, no question about it. I played some Crash whenever I was a kid. I played a lot of Jack and Daxter 1 whenever I was a kid. Uncharted 2 is like probably my first like big like AAA like blockbuster experience game that I ever played. They ever since then I've played every single game that they've released, and they're just one of the best. I mean, there's just no question about it, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel very similarly. I think that they are incredible. I have played all of the Crash 1, 2, and 3 on the remake, I guess not remastered, the remake versions of them. I have played a little bit of Crash Team Racing, the remake. I have played Jack 1, very little Jack 2. I've not played Jack 3 or the Jack Racing game. And I've played all of the Uncharted's and all of The Last of Us, obviously. These games are very, very formative and important to me for a couple of different reasons that I'll get into as we go game by game. But I think Naughty Dog is such a great studio, and I'm excited to figure out where we collectively think these should go.
Yeah.
So I
was about to say if the last tier list was the Andrew tier list, this is the Chris tier list right here.
If we were to, the thing is, I'm not going to feel strongly about the Crash games or the Jack games.
Yeah.
Like I played Jack 1 late, like the PS3 version, I think was the first time I played it. I played on PS2. Like I said, I didn't even play all the Jacks, and the Crash games, having only played the remakes. They're cool, but like my passion will come in at Uncharted, especially The Last of Us. Their first half of their history, I still enjoy and respect, but I'm not one of those people that's like, Naughty Dog should make another Jack and Daxter. Like, no, keep doing what you're doing. What? I think that's what you...
No, they should make another Jack and Daxter.
No, that's okay. We have other studios for that. Look, I want more games like that. I just don't think Naughty Dog needs to be doing it. But yeah, let's get into it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, okay.
You want to start from the beginning?
Yeah, let's do a chronological. Do we want to just base this off of the remakes? I know that's sacrilegious to some people.
Yeah, we can totally just base it off the remakes,
and I know.
I don't remember
best. Yeah.
I don't remember anything about the about how OG Crash was.
Yeah.
But I played some of the remake of the trilogy remake that they did, and it's okay.
Crash 1 hard as hell, dude. What a
it's really
difficult game. That bridge, you know what I'm talking about? The bridge.
Oh, the bridge level. Oh, dude, yeah, I forgot about that.
Dramatic.
I loved watching people just cheesing it by like jumping up on like the little rope.
Then it's still hard because you still have to line that up perfectly. Yeah, that game is hard. But I do think it was really influential. And I still enjoyed most of it, other than when I was really bashing my head. But it's like, again, this is going to be really tough. How do you compare, not to get ahead of ourselves, Crash Bandicoot to The Last of Us? Like, these are just such, it's almost, apples, because he eats the Tawampu fruits or whatever they're called.
Okay, I was
apples
like
Tawampu fruit.
Wampu fruit.
Yeah, I think that's
Wampu fruit. Close enough.
That's not what I said. It's hard to put them on the same tier list, but I do think Crash 1, I would put it like mid tier. I would say.
Yeah, that's probably what I would say too. I will give Crash its stars. Like, I don't think that any other game has done a platformer like the way that the first few Crash games have done it. Like, to essentially like to go from all of these 2D games on like the Super Nintendo, NES, to then get into the 3D era, and we have a 3D platformer that's still on like a level by level basis, as if it were like a 2D game. And
the different perspectives too, like the ones where you're like running at the camera from the boulder and stuff like that. That's so iconic. Yeah. And the on the bridge one,
all the little mini games, like you hop on the motorcycle and ride around. Like,
is that in the first one?
I don't even know if it's in the first one, but it's in one of the three.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to give credit where credit is due. I think that it's a really, really cool idea, and especially like to be a PlayStation 1 game. And this is pretty much like the platform mascot for PlayStation 1, or the platformer mascot for PlayStation 1. I would say whenever I think of a platformer on PlayStation 1, it's just Crash.
Yeah.
Some people say Spyro, but I think that the Crash kind of. I played
both remakes. Spyro is cute. Like it's a perfect podcast game, but it is.
Yeah. I think it's so boring.
It's pretty boring. It is kind of boring. Yeah. Okay. And I don't think you can say that about Crash. Like, Crash is engaging, partly because of its difficulty, but also just because of there's like more. I don't know. I don't want to say more thought. That sounds mean, but like.
I know what you mean.
More sauce. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, definitely more sauce. You think in B tier?
I think B tier. Yeah. Are we doing? So we only have S, A, B, C. Is that where we're at?
I mean, that's kind of what I think. I mean, we only have 11 games on here.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we want. I don't think that either of us have played Jak 3, so I don't even know if.
Yeah, we'll leave that one off.
Yeah. So then we just have. 10. I think that's still just 11. Maybe I miscounted the first time.
Yeah, that works.
How do you feel about Crash Team Racing, dude?
Also hard as hell. That game is really hard.
Yeah.
It's a cool design. I didn't play a ton of it because it was just so hard, to be completely frank. Like, I normally like games that are a challenge, but racing games are not. They're probably one of the genres I'm worst at. And so when you give me a hard racing game, it's like, I'm not built for this, man. But I did really like the level structure of like being able to drive around to the different races in the like kind of open zone areas. And I think it's cool that there is a harder racing. Like, I respect it that there's a harder kart racer out there than like a Mario Kart. It's obviously pretty approachable and much more accessible, if you want to call it that. So I respect it, but it wouldn't be super high on my list. But what do you think about it?
This is a very formative game for a young Andrew. I played more Crash Team Racing than I played actual Crash Bandicoot.
Wow.
Yeah, and dude, it is like a harder racing, but dude, it's so technical. Like, have you ever watched a speed run of Crash Team Racing?
I have not.
It is the craziest speed run of all time. You can break this game so much, dude, and it's so cool. It's genuinely one of my favorite speed runs, like probably ever to watch.
Wow.
I tried to do it a couple times, and it is genuinely very, very hard. But yeah, I get like nightmare flashbacks to the final boss of this game so often. I'm pretty sure his name is Nitrous Oxide. He's like this alien dude. And I could not, for like a year as a kid, I would go back and I would try to beat this little green alien. And dude, he pissed me off so bad. Like a year straight. The salt that was coursing through my veins. I'm pretty sure this is the first instance of Andrew ever feeling salt in a video game, is trying to race this dude and freaking Whiz Pig from Diddy Kong Racing. This for me is still like a B tier game, truthfully. Like,
wow, after all that's only B tier for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I would put it above like original Crash, but I mean, but yeah, I mean, I truthfully, like, looking at never mind. There is a couple of C tiers, but yeah, I think that this is just one of the most solid like kart racers, especially like fundamentally. Like, not many kart racers get as technical as this game, and I respect the hell out of this game for it.
Yeah,
like. They did something that so many other people are scared to do. So
I respect them both. Yeah. I mean, I would let you bump it above Crash Bandicoot if you feel that strongly, because I do think Crash Bandicoot is definitely a more important game, but like, I still, like I said, respect that Crash Team Racing is a league of its own in that genre, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And even the remake like carries a lot of that same stuff over. Like, you can do a lot of the same stuff in the remake, which I love so much that they know that there's like a really hardcore fan base for this game. And if they took some of that stuff out, like, people would not be happy about it. I think the remake was also very, very good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I heard the platinum for that game is insane.
Top would be on that one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, so top would be on that one.
Okay.
Right above Crash Bandicoot. Jack and Daxter.
Wait, what about the other Crash games? Crash 2 and
are
2 and 3 not on there?
Oh no, they're not. Or well, they're here. Sorry, I thought that we were lumping them all in on.
In that one. I mean, I would think,
because I can't differentiate the three of them. I'm not gonna lie to you.
2 and 3 do definitely blend together for me. I would. Yeah, we can just leave them off then, because I don't remember enough about them, I feel like, to really make a strong case. So
yeah, this is just like my placing of like Crash Bandicoot would be just like the trilogy. I feel like they're all like similar enough. I'm pretty sure that 2 is the best of them.
Yeah.
Just from like my memory, I don't know that I ever beat them or even really played them that much whenever I was a kid.
3 is the one where you could swap between him and his I don't remember if it was his sister. Is it his sister or is it a
Coco
girlfriend?
Yeah, it's his sister.
It is very important differentiation. That's right, because she's not the one he's trying to save. The one he's trying to save in 1 is his girlfriend. That's right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. We could just leave it there. I don't feel that strongly about the others.
Yeah.
Which brings us, to Jack and Daxter.
Jack and Daxter Precursor Legacy. Jack and Daxter 1.
What a great platformer. Just a
Dude, it's oh my god, it's so good.
really, dude. When I was in the prime of my trophy hunting, dude, this was the most zen experience. Like, you just give me a good, solid platformer on the remastered version on the PS3, and just give me a couple hours to collect all these little orbs, play your couple little silly mini games with the fishing and the racing and stuff like that, and just.
Oh god, the fishing.
Yeah, that one kind of sucked actually.
I forgot about that one.
The environments were fun. It was fun to try and find everything. It felt mechanically so unique. Just a really good platformer. I'm curious. What do you think? Where are you first thinking about dropping this?
I mean, I'm in like the A tier on this one. I think that this is probably just one of the best PS2 games. Especially from like a platformer perspective. I can't think of many platformers that are on the PS2, but I mean, this is probably maybe the best one. And not even to say that it definitely is still like a platformer. It's more like an action platformer, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say, but yeah, dude, this is also a very formative game for a young Andrew. I played a lot of this game. Because it's kind of like Mario 64, like in that you're trying to pick up all these different power cells, and you know, you pick up enough of them that'll let you go to the next area, and just the dialogue is so funny between, like, I mean, Jack doesn't say anything, but Daxter is like just such a character, and even all of the other characters, whose names I don't remember, but I can tell you exactly what they look like. I could literally draw them from memory by how many times I had to watch the intro, because I did not own a memory card.
Oh my, that's like also formative for the PS2 experience, though, for sure.
Yeah. I had to restart this game many times. I know the beginning area extremely well. Also, another side note, I don't know what it is with Naughty Dog and speedrun. This game is so much fun to watch speedrun, dude. This is another really good speedrunning game. It's very technical.
I haven't seen any for this one, but I have seen for Jack 2, and that one is crazy because it's like, not only is it easy to like break the game, but like literally break the game. Like, you can brick your own PS2 apparently, or like really mess up the system trying to break it. And so I've seen people get really nervous doing those speed runs if everything is just going to fall apart. So that's funny. That's like a through line with these.
Yeah. Yeah, because dude, there's the one skip that always like sticks out to me the most is like, I don't know if you remember, like after the first area of the game, you have to take like some hover bike like through like a little like lava area, and you have to pick up these balloons along the way that like keep your bike from overheating or something like that. I don't know if you remember that part of the game.
That's kind of annoying.
You can just walk over that entire part. You don't have to collect any power cells in the beginning at all. They found a way for you to just completely walk over that. Like, you can seriously break this game, and it's so much fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, just based on like how much I played this, whenever I did eventually get a memory card, I'm pretty sure that I got around to beating this game. Because dude, it's just an A tier game. Like, I love it.
A's a little tough because of the caliber of games we're talking about here, but
you think, bro?
I mean, it's really good. I just worry when I look at some of the other things that I think will probably end up in A tier. That's like, I feel like they might need to be a tier part, but we can put it there for now.
Okay. How you feeling about Jack 2 though?
This game sucks.
Thank you. Thank you.
C tier. I didn't finish this game. I've only played it for like an hour, and it's not like, they just went for a completely different tone, a completely different vibe. Jack talks now, and he's really annoying. It's this weird, like,
super edgy and brooding. And
yeah, it's like this weird open worldish area, which just makes it feel way less satisfying. Like, it's not fun to get around. The platforming itself is way worse, I think. In the areas that you do platforming, they have like guns and stuff, which didn't ever feel very good to use, I didn't think. It just doesn't feel good. It's not a game that feels very good to play. It's an ugly game because it's in this like weird brownish dirty city. At least the part I played, I never got out of that. If it does change environments, it's not a great game. I think it's probably their worst of the ones I've played.
Yeah, it's very like GTA like in a lot of ways. At least of like the older GTA games.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, is it this one or is it Jak 3? I'm pretty sure Jak 2 and 3 are like, they follow like the same general recipe.
I loved 1 so much, I went straight to 2, and I hated 2 so much, I never finished it or went back to 3, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, they just changed so much stuff, and it was just like, I probably made it about halfway through Jak 2 whenever I was a kid, and I still enjoyed it, but it was just, it just wasn't for me. It did not hit the same way that the first one did. Yeah. So yeah, I feel pretty confident putting this one in the C tier.
That's fair.
Which actually reminds me real quick, do you remember the PSP game Daxter?
I do remember.
Was that made by Naughty Dog?
It was not. No, that was okay. Ready at Dawn, the developers who made the Order 1886 and the PSP God of War games. Yeah,
I did not know that. That's crazy.
There's actually a great interview with one of their old creators on MinMax, that podcast I always talk about, where he dives into their history of making those games like that, and there's some pretty crazy plans for I don't want to spoiler alert, go watch the MinMax interview, just like search MinMax Ready at Dawn, but they talk about their interaction with Naughty Dog and how people really kind of vibed with Jak and Daxter, and then Naughty Dog had this weird kind of thing about how they wanted it. Anyway, I don't want to misquote or whatever, but there was some interesting history there that's worth looking into. But yeah, Naughty Dog.
Because I played a ton of Daxter on the PSP. That was maybe my most played PSP game, truthfully.
That's crazy.
Even though it was kind of
Birth by Sleep, my boy. What about Birth by Sleep?
I didn't play Birth by Sleep until I bought a PlayStation 3 in like 2017.
You're the biggest fan I've ever met, Andrew. How could you do that to me, you sicko? Oh my god! I bought a
I don't think
PSP
that I ever knew it even came out
exclusively for that game, and the God of War ones. I bought the Ghost of Sparta PSP. It was like red and black. It was really sick.
I've never played an old God of War game. I've only played 2018 and Ragnarok. Do with that information what you will. Oh my god. I think we broke him. He's frozen. Oh no, he's alive.
Dude, those were formative. Those were like the first M-rated games I ever played.
Really?
Yeah. I played them way out of order too. I played 3 first, and then I went back and played the others. It was I don't know if it was literally the first M-rated game I ever played, but definitely the most violent and like gratuitous game I'd ever played at the time. Yeah. And the biggest scale for sure of any game. Those are crazy. And the PSP ones are so good, dude. Especially for handheld games. Anyway, next up, because we're skipping Jak 3 because neither of us played it really. Uncharted Drake's Fortune, the first Uncharted game. You don't like this game, do you?
It's a game that exists. I never beat it, so I don't have any real big thoughts on it. The order of like my Uncharted history goes, I started with an Uncharted 2, I played Uncharted 3, and then I tried to go back from Uncharted 3 and play Uncharted 1, and that game felt like Bunky. It felt so bad. I was not a fan of it. So I just never finished it.
Yeah, I went back after I played 2 first, and then I went back to 1, and it still was tough. I mean, it's definitely the weakest of the series, for sure. There's no denying that. I think it's a little overhated. I mean, it still was a really competent third-person shooter. It does lay the groundwork for what's to come, but it doesn't have the polish or the scale, obviously, of the others. I remember going back and trying to play them on the remastered collection and trying to get the platinum, dude, and playing on the hardest difficulties. Oh my god, this game sucks when you try and play it on the hardest ones. It is so busted. It's still, I don't think it's a bad game, but it's like an okay game.
Yeah, it's very middling for me.
It hurts to put it in C, but like, I feel like if you don't like it that much, and again, you look at what else is here, it's hard to put it under. Like,
I can see it being in B or C.
Yeah, but like, I don't see another game we're gonna put in C. That's also part of the problem. Like, is the C tier literally just gonna be the Jak 3 tier or Jak 2 tier? I mean, not that we have to you know, make them all super balanced or whatever. I just know we tend to.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of up to you. You probably have more of an opinion on Uncharted 1 than I do. Just because I tried it so long ago and it literally nothing stuck with me. I don't even know the story of the game. Like when because Elena like is in Uncharted 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever she pops up in Uncharted 2, I'm like, who is this lady?
Yeah,
like, I still don't even know.
Into, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even know like her story in the first game. So I probably need to go back and play it, or at least watch some cutscenes or something. But
that's where you get to meet
what
Victor goddamn Sullivan. He's so good.
Oh, true. I forgot. How did I forget about Sully?
Yeah.
But yeah, more whatever you're feeling on this one.
Let's put it at the we can put it at the top of C for now.
Dang.
I think it should be B, but
it doesn't have to be all even and stuff.
I know. But we're gonna be really so top heavy, man. We're gonna be so top heavy.
Well, yeah. Welcome to making a freaking tier list for one of the best game developers of all time.
Yeah, yeah. We'll leave that for now, and then we can bump it up later, maybe.
Yeah. Uncharted 2.
You said
this is one of the.
Yeah, you said you started with this one, right?
Yeah, I started with this one. This is like one of the first big like blockbuster AAA games that I ever remember playing, and it's also one of the first games that I ever remember playing, beating within like 2 days. I visited my brother, who lived in Georgia at the time, for a weekend, and I started playing it whenever I got there. He was like, dude, check out this new game that just came out. It's pretty cool. And I was like, okay, cool. I sat down and I started playing it. I played it the entire time that I was there. By the end of, we got there Friday. By the end of Saturday night, I had stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning, which I had never done before in my life, and beat this game at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that I ever remember saying to myself, like, aside from whenever I beat like Kingdom Hearts 2, like, this is one of my favorite games that I've ever played. Like, period.
Yeah. This, like, I have a very similar kind of attachment to it. I remember this was the first game that really I remember being what helped me start to look at games differently. Like, you know, I had the childhood era where I was playing, you know, mascot platformers, which there's nothing wrong with it. Like I've said in other episodes, I played a lot of licensed games, a lot of Harry Potter games, SpongeBob games, you know, stuff that my parents was like, oh, he likes to read Harry Potter, he likes to watch SpongeBob, like we're gonna get him those games, you know, before I was making more of my own purchasing decisions, I guess. And I remember one of the first issues of Game Informer I ever got, this game got a 10 out of 10, and I was like, what does a 10 out of 10 even look like, dude? What does that mean? And I got it, and it was just mind-blowing to me, man. I remember I never played anything with, like, the opening is so strong where you're climbing up the derelict train as it's falling apart on you, and then there's the actual train sequence that people still talk to today about, like, one of the most cinematic things that you know that they've experienced in games. The shooting just felt so good. The characters were so funny and quippy to me at the time. Like the way that dialogue was presented, like it just felt so much more organic than any other game I'd ever played, where it's like, okay, you walk up to them and they have their text box and they look super janky. Like it looked visually miles ahead of anything I'd ever played before. I mean, it was just so one of a kind for its time. This is a special game.
I'm right there with you. You said that this is the game that like made you look at games differently. Like this was kind of like my wake up call into like gaming.
Yeah.
Like I had a Wii, I had a Nintendo DS, and that was about it. I played crappy little license games.
Yes, I was the same way. I also had a Wii and I had a PS2 before that, but even then, that was like all licensed games. A Game Boy, a DS.
Yeah,
but
yeah, and this is around the time where like all I played was Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I didn't play anything with any like meaningful kind of story, like nothing like that. So to get into this and like be so like engulfed in this story, in this like grand adventure that I beat it in 2 days. Like I don't do that with almost any game, even now.
Yeah.
You know, this is very, very high on the list for me. This is, I mean, can we agree that this is in the S tier?
I think it's S tier. I think if we're being like super objective, like I would be curious today by modern standards if it compares to maybe some of the other things that I'm thinking of S tier. But like,
yeah,
I think for us, it sounds like it's really special to both of us, and it was so formative. And I do still think it is still, even if it, you know, it deserves some credit for being the foundations for what's to come. And it's not like the first one where like, okay, that is foundational, but it didn't have the same impact or the same polish as this. Like, I still think when you go back and replay them, when you go back and replay, I still think this one stands out for being really enjoyable still, even if you did go play today, even if it's not like the same mind-blowing experience, obviously. So I do still think it.
I definitely think like for the time that it came out, like this is just one of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
Whenever it came out, you know?
Yeah.
3 on the other hand, I played it in its entirety, also in a weekend. I don't remember almost anything about it.
Really? Whole stuff with like young Drake and Sully and them like going through the bazaar and stuff like that, and the airplane sequence, dude, with all the Subway ads. Remember they had the Subway ads where he would catch sandwiches as he was falling. Don't you remember that? Come on, man.
I do vaguely remember that part, but that's about it. The only thing that I really remember, this is kind of a spoiler, I guess. I remember some dudes in the very end with like some heads that were like on fire or like glowing or something. I don't really remember like what like the supernatural like aspect of this one was, but it seemed a lot less grounded to me than 2, even though I remember there being some pretty ungrounded stuff in 2.
What do you mean?
Wait, do you?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's always an element of fantasy, and all. The most grounded one is easily 4. 4 really doesn't have that. But 1, 2, and 3 all lean into the, like, it's very Indiana Jones-esque, where it's like it feels very grounded until the end where suddenly God appears and
just balls to the wall. Yeah.
I think this one's a little overhated. Not that I think it's hated per se, but like especially after 2, like it's still obviously reviewed really well, but no one thinks it's as good as 2. I think they're, again, if we're trying to be objective, I think they're pretty comparable, but it wasn't as special, obviously, as 2. So, I mean, I would put it like, again, probably I would put it top of A, but we could, or bottom of A.
That's kind of what I was thinking. But
yeah,
like
top of B, bottom of A is where I'm thinking.
Top of B, bottom of A.
Yeah.
I definitely think that it, like, if we've got Crash Team Racing and Crash Bandicoot in the B tier, like, I definitely think that it's like a step above those. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this list is gonna be wonky.
Yeah, because it's gonna be very wonky.
That's like you said. They're all great games. So, well, no,
yeah, they all. Yeah, that case.
Maybe to balance it out, we'll put it bottom of B later, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Uncharted 4. What do you think of Uncharted 4?
I'm trying to think of what I think about Uncharted 4. This is the first PS4 game that I played. Was it a launch title for PS4? Am I tripping?
I don't think it was
really close.
No, it definitely wasn't a launch title, but I think it was within like the year. Like I want to say like when they announced like the launch day of the PS4, I feel like I remember being in GameStop waiting to pick up my console and they dropped the trailer for it. I want to say.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I played this pretty close to whenever I got my PS4. I got my PS4 a couple years late, so I had a lot of backlog to catch up on. This and Last of Us Remastered, I got at the same time. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I remember, oh God, what's his name? Sam? Is that?
Yeah, his brother.
Is that his brother?
Yeah.
I think that relationship was cool. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Isn't this the one where like, isn't there young Sully in this one? Like really, really young Sully?
That's
or is it young
that's in
Nathan
3.
Drake?
That's in 3. Really young Nathan
That's in
Drake is in
3.
4, yeah, because you see really young him with Sam when they're kids.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I vaguely remember like some of the story stuff. I mainly remember getting to that big open zone in the Jeep or the the Humvee or whatever, and just being able to drive around and thinking like, dude, for this being like my first PS4 game, like my next like truly next gen game, like this just looks freaking unreal.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I really like this game. I like this game a lot. I think it was easy. It had a pretty troubled development, and after people were already harder on 3, after 2, like I feel like 2 was constantly the thing everyone was always comparing the other games to. But this game, it felt like it took some of the cinematic, like as much as I love Uncharted 2, I think Last of Us takes the cinematic aspect of gaming to another level, even entirely after that. And this feels pretty close to on par with that as far as the performances and the spectacle goes. Drake's relationship with Elena in this game is so well done. I mean, Drake he's like an addict, man. He just can't stop himself from doing these things that are, harmful to himself and the people he loves, and he knows it. But like, seeing how but you can tell he also still does really love Elena. He's not trying to hurt her. He just can't help himself. And he thinks he's doing the right thing, by using his brother as, oh, well, I'm doing it for him. I'm not doing it for me, to try and help him. And I think that dynamic is just so well done. It's surprising to me because I've only played this game one time, but I remember it. I typically am like really bad about remembering specifics of games, but there are so many sequences in this one that still stand out to me as like interactions between them. Like there's that puzzle that you have with Sam and Nathan where they're like trying to figure out the one about the penitent thief on the cross with Jesus and stuff like that. I remember thinking like that was such a cool, like grounded, like take on, because
how long ago did you play this game?
At launch.
That's an insane pull, dude.
Yeah, it just stood out to me so much because I was like, well, that's such a good metaphor for them specifically, and it's like pulling in these like more real grounded aspects of modern mythology or whatever you want to call it or whatever, in comparison to the more kind of wonky stuff they get into in some of the other games. And like the cutscenes with him and Elena and I don't want to spoil it, but like the ending especially really felt
ending is really
like a
good.
really satisfying payoff. The environment's just, like you said, gorgeous. I remember that Humvee section really well too. And the opening with him, like them playing the Crash Bandicoot game together, and like you see it, God, like there, it just is such a. It makes me care so much more about Nathan Drake. Like I love the other games because he's such a like fun, silly guy, whatever. But this one, it just feels like it adds so much depth to his character, in my opinion. And like seeing the stuff about him diving at the very beginning for his diver job, and it's like he's just pulling out a bunch of crap. Like I don't know, there's just so many aspects of it that feel, you get so many of these series now that like have their ending that isn't really the ending, and who knows if this is the final ending for Uncharted, but it mostly was, other than Lost Legacy afterwards, the ending of their story at least. And it felt like such a satisfying conclusion to that both developed them but also built on them and left in a satisfying way. And I feel like that's just so hard for so many things to do.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't, again, Uncharted 2 is so unique for having like the shock of being the first of its kind. So it's like always hard to like compare.
It's really hard to like pit them against each other because like objectively, like is one like a more like technically sound game than the other? Like probably.
Yeah.
Like, but I guess a lot of it for me like boils down to like story and stuff, which again I don't really remember like, all that well. I remember beating 4 and thinking whenever I beat 4 that I still liked 2 better. And maybe that was just because it was my first. But for this being like, the first like truly next gen game that I played, it's still pretty up at the top for me. Would you say that it's better than 3?
Yeah. I would put it like top of A is where I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If Jak and Daxter would move over,
It won't give it up. So I won't live in your shadow.
That's exactly where I was thinking. Uncharted Lost Legacy. I also played this one. I played this one more recently than 4. Well, obviously, because because it came out. What this was like 2018.
That sounds right. It was because I think Uncharted 4 was 2016, and I think it was. Yeah, that must have been 2016. Which means that was probably 2018.
Yeah. So I played it like
2017.
I have it a little because I played it a couple years after it came out. I probably played it in 2020 or 2021. So I remember it just a little bit better. And I definitely don't like it as much as maybe any of the Uncharted games aside from 1. Just because it is like a shorter, like more kind of condensed experience. Because if I remember correctly, it's kind of just like one big open zone, right?
It's like 2, I think. It's like 2 bigger open zones, I want to say. I mean, but they're like, linear. I want to say like starts linear and ends more linear as well. But yeah, no, I'm kind of on the same page. I think it's, again, if we're talking technically, I mean, it's technically almost as good as 4, I think. But it doesn't resonate in the same way. I definitely don't remember the moments like I do in 4. I love Chloe. I mean, I remember thinking how much I liked her in 2, and then her not really being a part of the series again, especially even in that send-off in 4. I was really glad for her to get to come back. It just didn't resonate as much. Like, I didn't care as much about the character Nadine, but like you get to see more of Sam too, which is cool. I mean, it fleshes out a lot of the characters that are still interesting in this world, but because they're not part of the core Sully, Nathan, Elena, it just doesn't hit as hard, and I don't think it's as memorable, unfortunately, even if it is still good. You know, if I went back and played it now, I'm sure I would still enjoy it. I would say it's probably like, maybe that's bottom of B, and then we leave Uncharted Drake's Fortune in top of C.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Oh man, this is quite the list that we have going here. For a small recap before we get into the real meat of the tier list, at the bottom of the tier list in C, we've got Jak 2 with Uncharted Drake's Fortune at the top, and B at the bottom we've got Uncharted Lost Legacy, the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, I guess, Crash Team Racing at the top of B, and then in the A tier we've got Uncharted 3, Jak and Daxter, and Uncharted 4 at the top, and then in the S tier, the only S tier game that we have so far, Uncharted 2.
It's actually wicked that we have Crash Team Racing above Uncharted Lost Legacy. That's actually kind of wild.
Not. What are you talking about?
That is That's a little wicked, but
it's beautiful. It's perfect.
You said it was formative, so I won't take that away from you.
Thank you.
All
right, Chris.
All right.
This is you right here, buddy. Do you want to start with The Last of Us 1 or The Last of Us 2? I'm guessing probably The Last of Us 1.
Yeah, we've been going in like, I guess not chronological order, because we would have done kind of Uncharted 4 after Last of Us 1, but
oh, true. Yeah.
We're doing it like series chronological order, which is means we would start with, I guess, Last of Us 1. For as special as I was saying, like Uncharted 2 was for me, I mean, that was like the beginning of that kind of like journey, I guess. And The Last of Us, to me, still feels like the culmination of that in a lot of ways, and what matters to me in video games, which is these evocative performances and this narrative. The way to tell a narrative that can only be done in video games, I think. I say as we're doing this because of the adaptation that just came to TV for these games, which is still great. But like, I remember after I watched the season finale of the first season, I was like, that was great. Mayor, let me go ahead and pull up the ending of the game. And I was like, these are my characters. Like, these are my Joel and Ellie. Like, they're still obviously fantastic performances by Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. But like, these characters mean so much to me, man, from The Last of Us. The opening to that game, I just wept. Like, I cried so much in the first 10 minutes of that game. Like, I had never had a gaming experience hit me so potently and so quickly. I think that it was such a grounded experience in a way that I wasn't used to in this medium. I think people say that the gameplay is simplistic, but I think it's just really satisfying. I really love the combination of stealth and action whenever you get caught. You know, having at the end of the game these really souped up weapons where you're just like, which God just gets cranked up to 1,000,000 in part 2, obviously, as far as the gameplay goes. But, you know, it was so tense, like having these sequences where you're going through these really derelict neighborhoods and hearing the just sound that I will never get out of my head of the clickers. Like, that is such an iconic, there's so much about this game that's so iconic, of the sound design and the character design and the writing and the lines. Like, you know, I swear, you know, that delivery at the end, I will never forget, man. And the way that the ending kind of, the way that the characters develop feels so organic in a way that, again, I just don't think I had seen in a video game before. Like, Joel feels like a real human being that I believed would have the arc that he has in this game. And it's just so well performed, and it's does environmental storytelling in a way that I'd never seen in a game before either. You know, I was talking to someone last night about we were recapping the first season, and they were like, oh, is Bill even in the first game? And I was like, yeah, but it's totally different. You know, he doesn't meet his partner. You don't get to see him meet his partner. But then I was thinking about it. I was like, well, you don't. But there's all these notes strewn out all over the area nearby where you can still paint an entirely different picture of that character that's just done through environmental storytelling in a way that if I pick up like a note or an audio log in 90% of games, I don't care. But in these, they have entire storylines that are done through them in ways that I find really impactful still. You know, there's that storyline of the family that you find in the sewers that you're going through with Sam and Henry, and you like, you know, have this entire journey that you go through with them as you're going through on your own. And then you get these side characters like Sam and Henry that and are so tragic and could be their own, you know, games. They could get their own games and flesh them out in their own way, and it would feel believable. I'm just ranting because this is just, I mean, this is a top 5 game probably of all time for me. It resonated with me so much on an emotional level. I care so deeply about these characters. And I really think that from a storytelling and performance standpoint, it really, really changed what I think games are viewed as by a lot of people, and really impacted me more substantially than almost any game probably has before or since. So,
dang, yeah. I mean, I really don't think that I could say anything much better than what you just said. I do I do remember not being in the loop on this game at all whenever it first came out. And we were all hanging out at one of my friend's house one night, and our friend Jeffrey, he would always bring over his PlayStation. We would play games on there and stuff. We'd play like Nidhogg and like all of those, you know, wacky silly games. And he had Last of Us on there. He was like, Andrew, have you heard of this game? I was like, no. He's like, I want you to play this intro. Like, I was literally about to leave for the night. I was about to get in my car and go. And he was like, I just need to play the intro real quick. It's like 30 minutes. Like, well, I'll just sit here and we'll just watch you play it. I was like, all right, dude, whatever. So we sat there, we played through the entire intro, we got to the end of it, and he said, okay, turn off the PlayStation. How do you feel? I was like, sad. This I don't want to drive home. And yeah, I mean that was my first experience with this game, and then it would eventually take me a couple years to be able to play it. I didn't have a PS4 for a while, and I never owned a PS3, so it took me a while to get on the train. But yeah, I mean it truthfully is just, I mean, it's a masterpiece.
It's got one of the best DLCs of any game ever, too. If we're bundling that in, like Left Behind, does a great job of fleshing out Ellie. And again, another character that you're introduced to only in that DLC, but I still cared really deeply for in like the 2 hours that you get with them, you know. And it gives you more time to play as Ellie, which is really cool. In the lens of the first game, where you only get that one short section where you get to do that otherwise.
Yeah,
and dude, the multiplayer, genuinely one of the
not
most,
bad.
I loved it. Like if you're gonna compare it to like the other like tacked on multiplayer modes of this era, I mean, it was so much more in depth. I mean, the kind of crafting system that you would have in games was so cool, and the fact that you could, I don't know if you, I can't remember if this was on the PS4 version, but on the PS3 version at least, you could integrate it with your Facebook, so that like there was this meta game where you were trying to pick a side, and one of you would be vying for supplies basically, and whoever was winning would get, you know, the best supplies. But if you didn't get enough, then part of your people would die. And so like your people in your camp, they would fill in with your Facebook friends. And so you would like see so-and-so is in your camp and so-and-so is, you know, you never obviously actually interacted. It's not like there was a hub world or anything, but it was all in menus. Yeah. But it was still so funny to see like, oh, there went Andrew. I didn't get enough supplies that game. So he got eaten or whatever. It's like,
that's crazy.
Super novel for the time. And the gameplay itself, obviously,
it's really cool. Just like my friend that I was telling you about that showed me like the intro, he has like hundreds and hundreds of hours on just the multiplayers. Like it must be like really good. I didn't dive like super deep into it, but I've heard nothing but like great things.
It's great. I really liked it a lot. It was super stealth focused, which you don't get that many stealth focused multiplayer online games, you know. It's just so good. What a special game, dude.
I will say that the last thing that I'll say about it is I do remember upon completion of this game, I was a little more down on it than I am now. Because I remember finishing it, and I don't know why. It just didn't hit me, and I don't know if it's because I just didn't have that kind of like appreciation for like art in games yet, or like true like storytelling in games. This is when I just started like getting into games a little bit more. I got a Wii U. Like this was around the time that I got my Wii U, and I was just I was a Nintendo gamer.
I just love the narrative. It was like, yeah, I just couldn't like the ending of Last of Us because I had Nintendo Land to go play, man.
that's what it was. It was like I hadn't played something like it before, so I wasn't sure initially if I liked it, because it was just it was so different for me. But then many years of like reflecting on it and watching the show, and it kind of jogging my memory of like everything that happened in the game, like it truly is just like it's a one of a kind kind of game. Honestly, I think both of these games are kind of one of a kind of games.
Yeah.
So this is easy S tier, right?
Yeah. Top S tier in my mind. Love you Uncharted 2, but
yeah. No, I agree. And then that leads us to the very divisive Last of Us Part 2.
Yep. I did my whole spiel on Last of Us Part 1. You go ahead and lead with Part 2.
I left Last of Us Part 2 also being a little down on it. Whenever I initially played it. I don't know what it is with these games. I don't know if they're just like growers for me, but with time and like really thinking about what happens like over the course of the game, it just over time it gets like bigger and bigger in my brain. I'm like, dang man, that was a really good game. And then now I'm like full-fledged like yet again, they did it. They just always do it. It's a masterpiece. Like, it's truthfully unlike anything that I've played. I like it more than the first one.
Wow.
I like it more than the first one. I do. Maybe that's my hot take.
That is,
but
I was worried that you were gonna go the other route, like you didn't like it, but to like it more than the first, I mean, that's tough. I've really wrestled with this in my head, especially having just replayed part 2 a couple of weeks ago.
It just does something so different, like, which I appreciate so much. I mean, I guess spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, spoilers for any of these games if you haven't played them, I guess. But, you know, I mean, not talking about the part, but, you know, you play half of the game as one character, half of the game as another character. And that, like, to me, that's like such a different thing that, I mean, I hadn't seen in this type of game up to this point.
Yeah.
And by the end of the game, I liked the much lesser liked among people character more than, you know, the main characters of the game.
More is insane, dude.
That's my like actual hot take. Yeah.
Wow. That is nuts.
Yeah. I think she's just so justified, and I think that one of them is just a spiteful, like, just oh, sorry. I'm really trying not to get into like mega spoiler territory, but like, hello, this is Andrew from the future. This is your spoiler warning. We're going to get into some very deep Last of Us 2 spoilers, so please do not proceed beyond this point if you do not want the game spoiled for you. Thank you. Abby more. I'm just gonna say the freaking names. I like Abby more than Ellie by the end of the game.
Yeah, well,
like,
you know, I guess we could just get into spoilers here, I guess, because I feel like to really delve into this one, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know if we'll maybe retroactively put in spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, just briefly. But this game, it's so hard for me to pick my favorite out of these two, because I think the first game is a more streamlined, nothing is perfect, right? Obviously, but it's like a more perfect package. Like, it's a cleaner game. It's like a much easier, like, it's more linear, it's more straightforward. When we were talking about like adapting the first game for the TV, I was like, okay, I can tell you exactly what each episode is going to be. This is going to be the Sam and Henry episode. This is going to be the David episode, or David episode. This is going to be the Bills episode. This is going to be the episode where they find Tommy again. This is, you know, like, there are much more clear cut moments and things like that in that game. And it's what established my love for these characters, right? The reason I feel the way I do in part 2 is because I care so deeply about them from part 1. But part 2, man, the flashbacks, the beginning is obviously sad, obviously, what happens. And I don't want to just say whatever the more sad game is the one that wins or whatever, right? But like, for me, such a huge part of what I want to get out of any media I'm experiencing is making me feel something. And I will say The Last of Us Part 2 made me feel more deeply than I think almost any other game ever has before. I mean, the ending of this game, like I said, I cried at the beginning of Last of Us Part 1, right? I can admit that, right? Like, I wept at the end of The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, I sobbed when... Full spoilers here. Full spoilers for Last. We'll have to definitely timestamp this, because I just think we have to get into it.
Yeah,
I know some people might be listening who like are watching the show, and you know, I don't want to spoil it for them, so we'll make it very clear, right? But at the end of The Last of Us Part 2, when you get that final flashback, the whole game is full of these flashbacks of Ellie and her time with Joel, and you figure out why she's so angry at him, which is pretty, I mean, it's obvious to see why, right? But you get to see that play out in real time. And it's so hard to see these two characters that love each other so much. But, you know, Joel was really just trying to do what he felt he needed to do to save her, selfishly in a lot of ways. You know, he's a flawed character, and we've known that, but like seeing the relationship deteriorate is so tough. But seeing that last flashback where she goes up to him and says, you know, I don't know if I can ever forgive you for what you did, but I want to try. And seeing him respond in such an emotional way, you know, and see how much that means to him, and know that's the night before he dies, and they don't get to see that relationship repaired in the way that it really should have been. I weep. I'm getting emotional just talking about it. And the very last scene of her, you know, I talked about Nathan Drake being an addict and for it is addicted to, you know, the thrill of the adventure and the chase and everything. Ellie is this addict for pain and it's so clear when you see them in the house with Dina at the end, and she's begging her not to go. And Ellie has the life that should be everything she wanted, but she just can't. And seeing the ramifications of that play out, it's so well done. And it wouldn't be so heartbreaking if it wasn't so well done, if it wasn't so well written, if it wasn't so well acted, if I didn't believe, if I didn't care. And her going back to try and play Future Days one more time on the guitar, but her physical wounds from the fight making her incapable of ever doing that again. It's just such a incredible manifestation of the consequences of her actions and their actions. And for them to be able to make Abby a sympathetic character in any way, and all of that is it's just the performances again. It just takes performances in games to a level that I don't think ever has been surpassed before or since. You know, I do think performance wise and story wise, it is more impressive than The Last of Us. It's just a little messier. You know, it like the pacing the only issue I have with the game is the pacing, because I think when you get to end of day 3 with Ellie, you have played a lot of that game already, and to have to restart from ground zero with Abby. I remember the first time I played it, I was like, oh, this must just be like a short, you know, 1 hour kind of thing. And then realizing, no, I have 3 more. I have just as long I have to play with her as I did with Ellie. The game does start to drag a little bit there, I think, especially because of where they ended.
On the longer side, for sure.
And so I think it does suffer a little from pacing, but you know, I still really enjoyed it. And I think the gameplay, talked about this a little bit in The Last of Us 1 section. I think the gameplay is really satisfying, but in 2, the dynamicism, is that the word? Dynamicism? How dynamic this game can be is insane. I mean, I remember when I was playing it a couple weeks ago, you're on the top of this roof, and I don't think I told the story on the podcast already. Sorry if I did. Did I? Do you remember what I'm about to say?
I don't remember.
Okay. There's like this sequence where you're like on the top of this roof, and they're like building this like little greenery area, right? And you see like these 3 different enemies, and Ellie can like climb underneath the sort of flower bed or whatever that's kind of upraised, and she's underneath it, and you can see everyone's feet, and they're talking. Their feet. I'm getting tired. Clearly, their feet. And like, I remember I shot them. One of them. The other one freaks out, hears me, drags me out from underneath it, and like we have a punching match, and then I like throw an item at someone else separately or whatever like that. And I remember looking over at Mara, I was like, I want you to know that like it wasn't scripted. Like they can just pull you out and like find you, and you have to adapt on the fly in these ways that feel like they would be cinematics in any other game, but in this it's just the normal gameplay. So I do think it's really, really impressive in that way too. But
dude, watching some people like truly go like full like beast mode like what is the grounded
the hardest difficulty,
just going absolutely crazy. They're like, all right, I'm gonna shoot this person, I'm gonna throw a brick at this person, I'm gonna jump all the way over here to this side of town so that they can't, or this side of the area so that they, you know, don't attack me, or you know, whatever. Like there's so many like moving parts in the combat, which I didn't appreciate the first time that I played it. But after watching so many people play it, I'm like, dude, there's a lot going on.
There's so much
like
depth
at any given moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it really is incredible. And to kind of backtrack on what you were saying, or to go back on what you were saying, having this game like make it to where I could feel any sympathy for Abby. Is because I mean, you spend the first whatever, I'll say 10 12 hours of the game with Ellie.
Yeah, it's
maybe more.
Yeah, I think it's like
it might be 15
13 to 15ish. Yeah
with Ellie, and then the switch up happens and you're like, dude, what is this? I don't want to play this character. Like, I hate this character.
Yep.
And then you know, it starts to do the deeper dive, and God, man, like what that character goes through with Lev, and like with, you know, all the crazy stuff that happens on the, what is it, like on the island?
Yeah.
Like that whole segment is like freaking unreal, man. And then of course the ending. God, dude, I remember getting to that ending segment, you know, out in the water when Abby's up there, and then they make you fight. You know, I mean, that's the last fight of the game.
Fighting Abby one more time, dude. In the boss fight as Abby against Ellie, dude, insane in the theater, absolutely brutal.
And this is where I was about to go with that. So in that, you know, final fight at the very end of the game, you're playing as Abby, or you're playing as Ellie fighting Abby, and I literally like sat there for so long. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like I maybe sat there for like 2 minutes, and we were just like circling each other. It was like a freaking Mexican standoff, dude. We just weren't interacting at all. I was like, please do not make me kill this character. Like, I genuinely do like love this character. Whereas the Ellie, you know, essentially the Ellie boss fight as Abby, I'm like, screw you. Like, you're gonna die.
That's crazy, dude. But like, again, yeah, I remember thinking when I played the game, I was talking to someone who had only watched a playthrough and they hadn't played it, and they're like, yeah, I didn't really like it. And I remember saying, I have never had a game, this is such a cheesy common term I feel like people make fun of in games, but like the ludonarrative dissonance, right? Like when you're playing something that doesn't feel right, or whatever. I don't remember the specific definition, but like I've never played a game that made me so hesitant, feel so bad about doing what I had to do in the game. Like I did not want to do those things, but because it has to, like, that is what Ellie the character is doing. That is what Abby the character is doing. Like, and you are playing as them, you are not them. Like, that is a part of the experience, to feel that kind of tension in a way that I don't, again, no other medium can do. And I don't think any other game really has made me feel so specifically, whether it was the ending where like, part of me was like, Ellie, I really want you to do this. And part of me is like, Ellie, I really don't want you to do this. And, you know, there's sequences where you see Ellie hurting people that don't deserve it. And I remember being like, I don't want to do this, but the game doesn't care. Like, that's the story to tell. And that's part of what makes it so impactful. And it's so unique. So,
yeah, it truly is like one of a kind. God, now talking about it so much, like I want to go back and I want to play the remaster.
It's so good.
I haven't played it since launch.
That's where I was.
I haven't like recapped myself on any of the story. Like I remember way more of this game than I remember of Last of Us 1. This one was way more impactful for me than Last of Us 1.
In spoilers here, right here.
In spoilers. Where are you thinking? Because I mean, there's only two spots that this game can go. It can go above Last of Us 1, or it can go below Last of Us 1.
I have always said, because I think Last of Us is a more, you know, it's a simpler package. Like, it's a simpler thing to get right. Like that, and because it lays the groundwork. Like, it's a game that I've played much more because it's easier to go through. It's shorter. It's, you know, it's older, so I've just naturally played it more. But 2 did impact me more. I've always given Last of Us 1 a little bit of an edge personally, but you said you think you like part 2 more. So I mean, they're really close for me. So I mean, if you feel strongly, then
I do honestly feel really strongly.
Then we can put it. Yep, we can give it the number 1 slot. Because it's close for me, and I mean, look, dude.
Yeah, I mean that looks right to me. Honestly, yeah, that does look right. It's kind of like the same. I feel like this might be the same thing with you, where like with me with Smash and Mario Odyssey the other week. It's like, dude, I love both these games so much. Like if one's over the other, like I probably don't care that much.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I mean this looks right for sure.
Look, yeah.
As long as you're cool with it. As long as you're. This is your wheelhouse right here. This is like I know how strongly you feel about these 2 games.
I do about both of them. I mean, I truly love them, and part of the thing, honestly, is I do think they're connected. Like it's kind of hard in some ways to separate them because it's such a interconnected story. And I know I'm repeating myself, but like 2 wouldn't hit as hard as it does if I didn't already care so much about those characters from 1. But man, does 2 just destroy me? It just.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That one, like it just like impacted me like so much more. Like not even just we've ended spoilers. Yeah. Not even that part, but you know, like so many of the scenes and like the flashbacks and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess that's our final list then. You want to read it bottom to top? Wrap it up?
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah, so from bottom to top, at the bottom we have Jack 2. Stinky game, stinky.
It's just almost insulting to have that in the same tier list as anything in S tier, but especially The Last of Us.
Yeah. At the top of C tier is Uncharted 1. B tier at the bottom we have Uncharted Lost Legacy, Crash Bandicoot Trilogy, Crash Team Racing at the top. In the A tier, we've got Uncharted 3, Jak and Daxter, and Uncharted 4 at the top. And then in the S tier, at the bottom, we have Uncharted 2, The Last of Us, and then at the very top, The Last of Us Part 2. Number 1 Naughty Dog game. Oh, dude, we didn't even talk about the guitar. Oh, I forgot about the guitar.
Music is
like
so
being
good.
able to play it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, specifically into yeah.
People
just shred.
Oh my god, dude! The amount of like covers that I've seen of people just absolutely going crazy on that thing.
And I don't feel like that was an any
someone
game
play like
ever before that, and not that I've seen it in a bunch since, but I have seen like you get the piano in FF7 Rebirth, and you get the
that's like the first one that I've like really noticed and been like,
yeah. I feel like
I can see with the inspiration.
One other game, but I can't remember what it was that might have had something similar, but yeah, just groundbreaking game right there. So all right, I think that brings us to the end of the Teardrop Pod episode, whatever we said it was.
6 through 8.
All right, excuse right there. Yeah, somewhere between 6 through 8, exactly. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We plan to be back next week at our regularly scheduled time, and I think we'll have lots of other fun things to talk about as well, so make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Andrew, any parting words for the folks today?
No, we're all good. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right, everybody.
Appreciate y'all.
We'll see you next week. Bye.